And we leave our mics on, don't we? Throughout, okay. Good morning, we welcome everyone here that's watching and present in person. My name is Eve Bolton, and I am a board member of the Cincinnati School Board, and this is the meeting of the Budget, Finance, and Growth Committee. And we meet as the other standing committee on the board monthly. And we have a number of things to do today. First and foremost, what we will do is at least go around the room as we always do for introductions. I'm Eve Bolton, and we'll start with a member.
Good morning, my name is Jim Crossett. I'm a board member.
And
Good morning, Board Member Kendra Mapp, and this is my first year serving on finance, so I'm excited about it.
we welcome you.
Welcome,
You're
welcome.
courageous. Nan, you want to start?
Hi, I'm Nan Haygood. I'm the State and Federal Programs Manager over grants.
Good morning. My name is Cody Hutchins, and I'm the contract analyst.
Michael Guston, Treasurer and Chief Financial Officer. Just welcome to the board members for another exciting year of budget, finance, and growth.
Liz Martin, Assistant Treasurer Controller.
Emma Mueller, Internal Audit Supervisor.
And Kevin Ashley, Director of Financial Reporting and Transparency.
And
Rob Wilson, technician. And if you'd like to request to speak at the end of this meeting, click the hand icon, raise your hand. We'll ask you your name and association to the district, and we'll invite you to speak at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
And our superintendent just stepped out just a moment ago, and when she comes back in, we'll have her introduce herself as well. The first thing we need to do today is select a chair for future reference, and whatever. Part of what we do in the school board is that we have two starts of the year. We have the start of a school year, but we also have a start of a board year. And the school board functions by rotation on an annual basis from January through December. And so this is new committees, new leadership, and today we'll try to have the process to find a chair take place, and we'll get on with business. Are there any nominations for chair? Mr. Crossett.
I nominate Eve Bolton.
Thank you, Mr. Crossett. I would accept the nomination.
Now, I was nominating Board Member Crossett, so,
Please do it, and that's okay. Feel free.
so it says she lost discretion. But yes, I was nominating Board Member Crossett.
He's got about 6 other things that he's doing, for sure.
I'm honored by the nomination.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
I'd vote for you if I didn't want to vote for myself.
That makes me feel good.
Absolutely. Let's have a vote then,
I vote for Eve Bolton.
as do I.
Crossett.
Okay, thank you. That's sort of a tradition started last year in finance, so it's okay. It's not exceptional, don't worry.
I always have to honor the newbies.
Well, that's good. I like that. I like that. Moving on then, we want to start with our treasurer talking a little bit about the committee work plan, which is something we have to devise.
Sure, thank you. So in your packets, we have the, I think, couple drafts of the committee work plan, actually. We have the one from February of last year, the one from March of last year. I think the March one's a little more up to date, but traditionally what we do in this meeting is we pass it out. If board members have anything that they want to kind of discuss further or maybe make a change to under the responsibilities, we kind of mark that up and bring it back for discussion in February. Treasurer's office will update once we pick kind of the calendar, which at some point we have to talk about that today as well. But we'll update the monthly agenda items and the items to be approved by the board. Ideally, we bring all that back next month and have an approved work plan.
Thank you, and once we have that opportunity to review it and work on the work plan and pass it in finance, then of course, as by protocol, we send our work plan to the board, and the board as a whole adopts the work plan that Finance Committee is recommending. And everything there is in public. And then also, as you mentioned, the responsibilities, if we want to change the responsibilities or add to them or what have you, that will require us changing also the protocol, because that, or the bylaws, I always call it the old name, bylaws, because that part of this work plan is from the bylaws. And I do think the first paragraph or something is oftentimes in the, as to what it is that we do, it really does capture. It was several years ago that finance became both finance, budget, and growth. Previously, it was just finance, but the mission and the vision kind of finance began to grow as we lessened the number of standing committees we had. So,
would you like changes to you from the board members, and then I will take any suggestions from staff, and we can reconcile those and then bring it back next.
I will say that all the changes can go to you.
Okay, I'll take
If
all.
that's
all right.
okay, if you see
Yes.
things, and I do
agree.
think that we do need to review, maybe not just the responsibilities, but the monthly work, just because of where we are in this world right now. Financially, I mean, maybe we spend even more time on grants or what have you, or we talk even more about possible levies or bond issues or what have you. So all of us be thinking about these new demands that we have. I was just going to say, and we have a couple people, 3 people join us. And then step down again.
We have 2 people who could introduce themselves.
We have 2 new ones here for us. We have 3. As we did already the introductions, Madam President, would you like to introduce yourself?
Emily Dale with Anthony, Local 232.
Welcome, Madam President, and
Brad Smith, I'm the CFT field rep.
excellent, thank you. And again, the superintendent when she steps back in. But if you see this woman going in and out, it's probably the superintendent. So let's get started on the next
wanna-
part, which is her goals. Oh, I'm sorry. And Jim?
Just wanted to inquire about a specific time frame or date. I know that we're looking to have any revisions made and brought to the next finance meeting, but any specific time that you would like us to direct our maybe recommendations to you, just to make sure that we're operating in the scope of a, deadline and honoring that. Is there a particular time that would be helpful to make sure that we get our recommendations to you?
How about, just thinking out loud, 2 weeks from today?
Okay.
That way I think generally when deadlines are more than 2 weeks for things like this, then you give too much time and then things going to get forgotten.
Okay.
Good idea.
You did bring up probably one of the more important questions is when will the next meeting be? And one of the key things is getting on our regular meeting schedule. Traditionally, it's been third Friday of each month from 10 to 11.
And we did have staff look at those, so what those days would be going through the year. In addition to, there would be 1, 2, 3, I think 5 audit committee meetings as well that we have to also schedule, and those are already adopted, if I recall correctly.
Yes, they were adopted at the December audit committee meeting.
And the one area that was of concern, if we kept the same date, and we don't have to, but it has worked well, if we kept the same date, we do have the Juneteenth, but we would maybe hopefully not necessarily be able to either meet necessarily, although something important like June 30th would be coming up. So that would be something to
have a-
anticipate. Go ahead.
I have a feeling we'll need to have a finance committee meeting in June as that gets to be the end of the budget process. So, but that is one meeting that could be moved around
Adjusted.
a little bit.
Yeah, I was gonna
I
say, I'm
think
sure we can be flexible around time in June.
yeah,
I had a question
Go ahead.
on the work plan. Looking at the work plan for last year, are there certain topics that are typically addressed in certain months, just by, for example, do we always look at district insurance in March? Maybe that's related to
Yeah, pretty much.
renewals of, so those kinds of things, just keep those in mind as we put this together, and you can maybe highlight those for us.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think our calendars, we've done fairly decent job of sticking to our calendar. There are some required things, but yeah, I think that's good. We'll look at those. Try to obviously get in front of, if you look at the last page, is the things that need to be approved by the full board. So, and wherever possible, we want to come here first for those things.
That's one of
and
the most
Yes.
important parts of the scheduling, is that those things that do need to go full board, we, that are financial and particularly under our purview, we like to not only be sure that we've had a look-see either once or twice before it goes to the board, but we would like to be able as a committee to recommend passage. If we can keep it a unified passage, that's great. That has been our mission, but as the bylaws allow, it can also file minority within a committee when we take it to the board. But
And sometimes we've done finance on Friday, business meeting on Monday, but we've still been able to hit that.
absolutely.
So, which has been, I think, really a good thing for this committee.
And some things we like to bring to finance before we send them to policy, which is required, just like with the student achievement stuff. You like to get some sort of airing prior to it and give some direction and ask for help and leadership from policy. Other issues regarding work plan, we've got a date as to when we need to get back to the treasurer. Any other items? Does this third Friday work for folks that are here and the 10 o'clock hour? Friday is apparently one of the days that does work in our committees, because I think policy is a Friday as well. I don't know that it's that welcomed by staff, but it's, but almost any day is going to be problematic. For you?
Yeah, Friday is pretty good for me.
Great.
Yeah, no objections to
Jim?
it.
Third Friday's great.
Me too, treasurer. Does that work for you and your multitudes of treasurites?
Certainly does. We work at your pleasure, so.
Okay. All right, and then we'll look for that other date regarding the Juneteenth possibility.
Yes, we can look in June and see. Because I want to look at, I believe the last board meeting is the 22nd
Yes, of June.
of June, which is when we would traditionally pass our appropriations resolution, which so let me rephrase that, which is when we are going to pass our appropriation
yeah, we've
resolution.
been,
Let's put it in positive terms. So we would want to have a finance
Sounds good.
probably a week before that to tie up all the last remaining budget items. So the finance committee would feel comfortable recommending the final budget to the full board.
And as this works out, but members of the finance committee are also members of the community audit committee. And we have those dates, and I can list those now if you'd like. Okay. At least, and check me if I'm wrong, everybody. It's my understanding it's February 25th, and they meet at 4:30, I believe. 4:30, February 25th. Then we have, let's see, April 29th. July 22nd, October 14th, and December 9th. 4 o'clock, and they run a tight meeting. Only occasionally does it have any executive session. And the community is the volunteer of people of financial background, and we're very proud to be one of the very few districts that has one of those. Jim, do you have something?
Well, yeah, they run a tight meeting, 4:30 to 6 is usually,
That's
it's
it.
pretty much right on the dot,
So it's very good,
unlike our.
unlike us. We stayed till about 7. So, okay. Oh, this is short, this, actually, yeah.
Okay.
What can I say? All right, let's keep moving. Have we done all the business that we have to do? We're firmed up, we've introduced everybody, and we have the chair selection, we have the committee work plan work to be done. Until we see the superintendent come back in, can we go to you?
I was gonna say, let's move some things around.
Yes,
Do we want to take care of the chief audit executive item?
love to.
Yes. So, obviously, at the last audit committee meeting, she did her mid-year evaluation. It was reviewed and approved. All members of the finance committee at that time were there, were participating in it. And I think the only thing left to do is for this committee to have her mid-year evaluation scores added to the agenda for the business meeting.
And if we have the approval of this committee, we will move it. It is recommended for a passage from the audit committee, and the finance committee Mike Mentions was there, and we just need to ask Ms. Davis to have President Craig put the internal audit evaluation
On the agenda. Or in
on the next agenda, which is still in January, for the full board to vote on.
Does that, can that be in consent? Is that separate?
It could be either. It can be on the consent agenda. It depends how President want to handle it.
So in terms of the chief auditor, evaluation, will that be available for us to review before passing it on to the full board?
Board members will
Okay.
see what was, she submitted and what was approved by the audit committee.
Okay.
She is a very unusual situation, similar, I guess, really to the general counsel. General counsel has kind of a dual report to both like the superintendent and to the board. Well, the audit chief basically has a dual report in a way to us and on the board, and then also to the audit committee. And I think if you all recall, back the last time in this fall or when we had our work session, we kind of took to grips what the procedures and what the rules would be for all of our direct reports on the board. So we standing by that, and this is the process we kind of adopted. That's correct. So
It's
go ahead,
a little bit
please.
nuanced in that the internal auditor really reports to us and to the board, not to the superintendent. Whereas the.
Can't, absolutely can't.
But in-house counsel does sort of have that dual reporting to the superintendent and to us. So it's a little bit different.
Right. I'm just trying to just jog my memory though for clarity. So the audit committee actually facilitated the evaluation process. And from that point on, finance committee will then move it along for full approval for the board. Okay, thank you.
And for the evaluation, it is, the board members do have the opportunity, not only just finance committee on audit to participate, but seldom does the board, as individual members outside of finance, participate, but they are able to. And that scoring or recommend, or evaluation goes part with whatever the audit committee is agreeing to or thinking about as well. Thank you. Yes, that's what we would recommend, but it's President's call.
Guess we'll do mine.
Now it's you.
Excellent. All right, Rob, if you'll go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Thank you for all of your slide moving today. We're going to keep you quite busy here. So just to kind of set the stage here, the evaluation of the treasurer was updated. This was policy 1330 was updated in November. My evaluation should be completed by the end of January each year, with a mid-year in August. Mutually approved goals, developed goals by the board. This committee, Budget, Finance, and Growth, should review and provide feedback by the middle of January each year and submit the final evaluation to the board for approval. All that's great, but I'm in this weird midterm thing because I've only been in the role for about 6 months now. So So this is kind of like a final, but also a mid-year. I think it's kind of,
We're in that, like you said, it's in a transition.
yeah, we're in a
Yeah.
weird transitionary period. I think
Soon
that,
that'll be over.
yes, I think the nice thing is we aligned a lot of this to also the superintendent's evaluation. So for the evaluators, I think it gives you a little more consistency. So what I want to do today is go through, if you hit the next slide, Rob, you can see we also made the criteria the same as the superintendent's evaluation for consistency. But what I wanted to do today was go through my goals that I've had out there since probably October, kind of give the board an update. I do think I will probably change some of the goals and maybe come back next month with goals for this calendar year, because it looks like, moving forward, the evaluation cycle is really on a calendar year, so I'll probably want to update some goals. And I'll be honest, these goals were kind of built based on the old evaluation cycle. So the traditional kind of administrative evaluation cycle, which was kind of like, say, September to April. But we're gonna kind of blow that up and start over here. So if you keep going, Rob, biggest part of the evaluation are goals. And our goals are really in 3 areas: improve systems, increased engagement, and team culture and performance. There's 6 of them. I will not read them out loud as much as I'm going to just keep going, Rob. Thank you, sir. So I'll kind of talk high level. The first one is obviously the budget process. I think that's the first word in this committee's name, but it is maybe a constant goal for a treasurer is to refine and improve the budget process. If you hit the next slide, Rob, you can see I kind of broke down the elements. Obviously, number 1 is we have a fully approved budget by June 30th. That is always the goal of budget, but we're also updating some processes. We're rolling out a new version of our budget software, trying to integrate federal funds a little better. Unfortunately, which we can talk about more, there's a lot of uncertainty of how much federal funds we'll have in future years, and that is at the federal level. They're working on the federal appropriations, which makes it, fairly difficult for us to plan, but I think our grants team and our administration team are working through that. Staffing formula update, we did update staffing formulas. We are looking at additional revenue sources. I believe the group working on that will come back here next month and maybe have a presentation for you of some additional revenue ideas that they've come up with that they find to be valid. I think that ties in well with our forecast next month. Yes, sorry, go for it.
Since I lost in the vote and the chair is not here, I'm just gonna.
Yeah.
Hey, on this additional revenue sources, I don't know the timing to talk about this, but it could be a thought for the future goals. Is this a concept of service bureau? Can that be part of this?
I believe that is one of the ideas.
Okay, great.
But yeah,
great.
Chief Operating Officer Burkhart's got kind of a team looking at all
Oh,
kinds of
okay,
things
okay.
from ad revenue to shared services to all kinds of cool stuff. But
Okay,
definitely your service bureau idea.
but there would be potential shared services that could be from the treasurer's team, correct? Okay, great.
And then the last one on here is zero-based budgeting. So we started that. I think people put their initial budget request in by the end of last week. Jeremy Gallahue and I reviewed them yesterday. People did some good work. I think it's gonna help out as we ask, the board and this committee for kind of approval to move forward. We've gotten folks to really break their budgets into categories, which we'll talk. That's in future slides, but that was a good lift to get people moving in that direction. Second goal, if you'll just go 2 slides, Rob, is to talk about our long-term financial needs. And I think we've definitely started that. Thank Ms. Martin here for building out that tool we shared in the last finance committee. Looking at potential levy sizing. And I've also become an expert on levies and state funding, quickly becoming an expert on federal funding. So that's good. We've done some great presentations to the board in this financial town halls on these things. And then obviously, as we work on the strategic plan effort, Superintendent and I have been aligned on all those efforts. Third goal is building out a financial performance tool. And so this is more of an internal looking idea, but to give our administration a better way to look at trends in finances. And so there's a dashboard we're building out. We haven't rolled it out yet, so that is behind schedule, but I've seen it. We had a meeting this week to see where we're at. It's pretty cool. You get a lot of cool visuals, a lot of graphical dashboard ideas of where finance is at. Maybe we'll show some of that next month in this committee. I mean, I think it's pretty cool. And yes.
Just, will this tool, I mean, we already get a lot of recognition for our financial reporting and financial transparency. Does this put us at another level compared to a lot of the big urban 8s in Ohio by doing this, or?
This is pretty cool. It is, I will say, it is an internal tool.
Ah,
So it is for leadership team members, directors, managers to look at their areas of control and see graphically how they're doing on financial things.
okay.
This is pretty cool. I mean, I think it puts us in the lead, but it's not something that we publish external.
I see.
It is real-time data. It's refreshed every day. You know, and it really answers a lot of questions that a director or manager needs to know.
Got it. Thank you.
I have a question. So I like hearing about this financial performance tool. My question is, how will this maybe communicate or interface in any way with the audit dashboard that was rolled out? Will there be any collaboration or communication amongst the two, or will they be two separate entities?
They're separate entities, but connected in purpose. So this is a kind of real-time look at where your finances are. Some of the items, I believe, especially in the compliance section and in the operations section, are things that were clearly identified by the audit committee, you know, or by the audit team, and said, hey, we need to look at this. You know, they'll say, you guys need to look at this. That's a visualization that allows us to monitor it. So the connection I would see is, you know, the audit does an engagement. They come up with recommendations. You know, their recommendations are driven a lot of times by data. So as administration, you can see in the audit dashboard, hey, we completed this recommendation. You know, I said, hey, this recommendation is complete. We shared our plan with the audit team, but now I have a data visualization that shows me how well we're living that piece.
Okay.
You know, so they're all working the same purpose, but they're different streams of data. If that makes sense.
But so if I'm hearing you correctly, the audit dashboard can serve as like that driver of information to make sure that the execution is done on this particular platform.
You can, yes, for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
For the compliance and
Yeah, so
operation piece.
for example, one of the things on the dashboard is overtime spending, right? And so the audit committee or the audit team did a deep dive into overtime a couple of years ago, and put some recommendations out there, some of which are complete, some of which aren't. But one of their recommendations is that, you know, managers track their overtime, you know, at a high level. This dashboard goes a level beyond where we are. So right now, every payroll, every member of the leadership team gets a report in their email of everyone under their area that's used overtime, right? That was how we met the recommendation. The dashboard now gives you a visual, you know, you can see at a higher level this visual of how that works. And so it just gives you more of a drill through of data and an easier way to visualize.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Rob, if you'll hit the next one. Goal 4 is around community outreach. So got one more. Big one is our financial town hall podcast series, Money Matters with Mike. So we've completed 4 of them to date. We have some coming up. I would just ask the members of the finance committee. You know, we usually have at least 1 to 3 members of the finance committee come to the town halls, which has been great. And we get some really great discussion. If it's just me and a guest, it's not as much fun as if it's me and a couple board members. So please let me know if you're planning to attend. I mean, there's a sign-up sheet out there, but we really do appreciate having that board perspective and board input, you know, and allow you to engage with our guests.
I want to compliment you on having the guests. I think that's been a very beneficial thing, literally external guests that are experts. I've heard at least a couple of comments from some friends that are just nerdy enough to be watching this with us as we go. But I think that's been helpful. I think, too, it raises our profile. And I would think that looking at the, whatever that timeline might be, that we have to make a decision about going to the public regarding a levy or whatever it might be, it might be thinking in terms of building that also into your calendar, because those things are convened across the district. Usually it's, east or west, or now it would probably be in 3/4. So that might be something to be thinking about, because it's invariably been the treasurer and the superintendent that take the lead on those community meetings if we do have a levy. So be aware. Jim?
I just wanted to amplify that, especially the last two meetings, the two guests have been outstanding. And it's really great that those are recorded on YouTube, because we may want to refer to those in the future.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a good time to thank Mr. Rob for producing those.
Absolutely.
By the way,
Cecil B. DeMille.
Yes, he does an excellent job behind the camera. So we appreciate his efforts. And this is give ourselves a plug. We do have this out on YouTube podcast. So you can go out to YouTube podcast and you can watch the whole series. So I think that's really been a cool thing.
Just search Money Matters with Mike.
There's our theme song and everything.
Yeah, there's a theme song now. It's good. So other things on here, I have been presenting at the LSDMC meetings. Ms. Haygood joined me for the last one. She seemed to enjoy it, I think. But that's been a good outreach, I think, to get the treasurer's office back re-engaged with that group. We've done a lot of outreach here and there on stuff. I think one thing I was really proud of is when the county commissioners were looking at expanding the property tax rollbacks, we were able to rally all of the school districts in the county and get all the treasurers, a lot of board members, some superintendents, all to show up to county commissioner meetings. I was personally very proud of that, to be able to help kind of lead that effort and protect some tax revenue for us. And then we continue to publish the financial newsletter. I've only gotten through my first issue with it, but I know we're working to expand the number of views for those. So. All right, goal number 5 is something we're going to kick off actually today. So we've committed to creating a new year-end report.
Thank you.
And I think Kevin can tell you that Kevin works really hard on what's called the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, the ACFR. It's about a 200-page document. A few people read it cover to cover. I know Ms. Sellers, president of CFT, does. And
She does.
She does. She carries it around.
Nights, yeah, it's on our bedstand, I'm sure.
Yes,
Frankly, it probably is. So we're not
does.
saying that facetiously.
Yeah, she does. But for those who don't have that level of commitment to our financial reports, we are looking to do something kind of along the lines of the popular annual financial report. For board members in your packets, and Cody, jump in if you want here. We've put 3 examples in from other school districts. What we would like you to do is just take those and mark them up. If you like things, star them, smiley face, whatever, highlight. If you don't like things, X them out. I mean, the 3 are very different in how they're built. Some of them go straight to the financials. Some of them are a little more fluffy. But the idea is that you have about a 6 to 10 page document. Cody, would you want to add?
Cody with a K.
Cody with a
Cody
K?
with a K. Nothing too much to add on top of what Mike said here, but yes, picked 3 different categories of the PAFR, what we're calling the PAFR. So we have Columbus City Schools, one of our big urban aids, some we're similar to, so I want to have a comparison there. Newark City Schools in there as well. They've had quite a good recognition for some of their financial reports across the state, so I wanted to get a pretty good example. And then Worthington City Schools, theirs is pretty short, to the point, but shows a lot of good information and quick information there. But at your discretion, mark those up, give those back, and we'll see what we can come up with. And if anybody needs any more examples, please let me know. I'm more than happy to provide more.
Okay. Jim?
At the Ohio School Board Association meeting in November, the Columbus report was available to attendees. And so I think this kind of shorter executive-ish summary report could be a tool for all kinds of community communication that could be valuable beyond what we do in currently, beyond the 200 and, how many pages?
It's about 200, right,
200,
Kevin?
yeah. So there's some, I love that we're doing this, and I think there's a lot of value in doing it. So thank you for initiating it and considering it.
So let's say same deadline for that?
2 weeks.
2 weeks? Is that fair?
Yes, and I feel real strongly about this. I've asked for this for 15 years. And we have periodically done something similar to it. There's been 2 or 3 of these produced over that period of time, but not on a regular basis. And I think that this has to kind of go in step, and it needs to be done in step with the instructional side of the house, too, because of the narrative. There has to be a consistent narrative. I know there's some concern as we looked at going to the voters, and we have our foundation now, the need to have a narrative. We need a unified narrative, one, and that narrative, 40% of the overall narrative is going to end up being financial. Because that's where the credibility has to be established, and we're able to do that by looking at outside forces and whatever. So yeah, the verbiage and the themes and the feel of this is going to be very, very important. As always, I like to see teenagers also depicted. We tend to only put little people in it. And I don't want our teenagers to be forgotten by us. So I see on Columbus did a nice job too. Their recent explanation of their cuts and they had a nice publication. But this is great. And you're thinking it annual? Are there any quarterly kinds of things, or is the fund financials kind of take that? How does this work?
Yeah, so the newsletters are quarterly.
Okay.
And Cody Fouquet is kind of our lead on those. And so this is kind of in that middle gap between quarterly newsletters and annual popular report or annual small report, and then the big annual report for Ms. Sellers and anyone else who wants to read all 200 pages.
Yeah, and that's such a monumental Herculean effort, and deeply appreciated and underread. But I'd suggest also that you look at a couple of the high-achieving suburban districts in and around Hamilton County. They do this all the time. They do this all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking in terms of Wyoming and Madera, Marymount, those folks. This is very, very important for the taxpayers to receive this kind of publication. So I'd check them out, but the ones you've selected, I think, are outstanding. Okay,
Thank you. Yeah, and we'll
you have a question?
No, I was just going
Comment?
to add and really echo the sentiments that you shared around that, other districts do this, regularly. And so I do like that this allows opportunity for, all of our stakeholders, all of our constituents of the district to be more informed. And as you talked about, making sure that there's that alignment with the instructional aspect. So I look forward to seeing it roll out, and also just recognizing too that when we are speaking about finances, and I'm sure you all will do a great job of this, but really creating a narrative where it's able to resonate with, our constituents, and taking some of those very complex terms or complex, strategies, and really just breaking it down in a very simplified manner, so that anyone that is receiving or reading this, they're able to receive it and digest the information and feel that they are involved in this process as well. You're welcome.
Comments? Okay.
Can I add real
Oh,
quick?
please, Kevin.
I just would say on the annual comprehensive financial report, one of the main users of that is our debt issuances, our debt issuers. And it, it is required as part of our debt covenants.
Absolutely.
So, as fun as it is, there really is that's probably the main reason for doing that. Some schools don't do the full comprehensive report, and their debt assurers will go along with that. But I'm pretty sure that some of our debt covenants say we will do it that way, so.
I appreciate you saying that. It's and I don't mean to sound this political, but the analogy I would use is sometimes when people from the Trump administration are speaking, they'll say something, and then the commentators will say, well, remember, they only have one audience member that they're really speaking to. They may be on TV, or they may be doing a big speech, but there's only one person that they're trying to influence. So yes, the debt people and the serious people about understanding where we are, you're right. It's a smaller audience, but it's a kind of an important one, for sure. Thanks for mentioning that.
Thanks.
And I think, unfortunately, Kevin, we need to do both. For our size of a district and our level.
Oh, yeah,
level,
they're not gonna wink and blink.
We need to definitely do both for different audiences, and continue to do the town halls, and continue to do the newsletters, and just continue to look for different ways to engage, as Ms. Mapp said, try to bring some of these very technical concepts down to a level where people feel like they're engaged and they're involved.
It's their money.
It is their money, yes. And the last goal, goal 6, if you want to go, is to onboard a new assistant treasurer. So here she is, I'll check.
So far, you've done that pretty well.
So far, so good. Let's put a check mark there. But we are thrilled to have her on board.
Absolutely.
For sure. And she's done a great job already, transitioning projects. She's doing a great job. Jumped into some fairly complicated things herself, some fairly difficult things. So, yeah, I mean, I'm really happy so far of how this is going. We'll continue to transition stuff to her, which is awesome for me. So those are my goals.
Thank you very much.
Any other goal questions? I think we kind of asked a lot of them as we went.
I had to step out when you were on the first goal, and I'm sorry I had to do that, to take that call. When I came back in, I heard Member Crossett talking in terms of the shared services, shared efforts, or whatever. Service Bureau, that's great. I really feel very, 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 very strongly that there is a reason for us to do the shared services with the city of Cincinnati, both from a standpoint of where are the TIF districts and why aren't we getting any of the money, or at least for the infrastructure around our schools in the TIF neighborhoods. That should be the first focus. Or parks, for example, where children play and unfortunately get shot. Well, I really think that we have to have this idea of shared services, most particularly with the Recreation Commission. And I have shared with the recreation people, and the commission is very into this, as is the director, shared services, especially in their 6-year facilities master plan and our facilities master plan, where we have such proximity, could make big difference. It's very, very important. And so I've been pleased that you've reached out, as you mentioned before, political issues, for example, with the county. I think we do need to have, I know our big emphasis has been the 8 and having leadership on with the 8. But it's very, very important for both our superintendent and our treasurer to begin to raise their profile, because both of you are extremely professional, extremely humble folks, which is important when you're going to talk to the other 21 school districts in Hamilton County, because they don't want the city folks walking in and strutting around and thinking they're important. But there's leadership opportunities there among school districts, and the service piece is part of that. Jim?
Can you give me not necessarily a definitive idea, but just like a general example of what a shared service might look like between us and the Cincinnati Rec Commission?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to
no question. I have a list, not surprisingly.
Just go with the top.
I will go the top one, for example, Clifton Area Neighborhood School is adjacent to one of the most used recreation centers in town. We need share space. As a matter of fact, the land that Clifton Recreation Center is on is our land. So as they start to expand their efforts in that one recreation center, we need to be expanding cans. Cans is filled to the brim. So that would be, so there's physical piece, the facilities, and there's more than a half dozen that would be similar. Winton Hills and our school and the largest recreation center in the city of Cincinnati. So there's a facilities one, but here's a service one that's really important, I think. The recreation centers and Recreation Commission, one of their revenue generators, and it's a generator. The biggest one is golf, but not close to it, but one of the other leading ones is after-school childcare programming. And they have space. They don't necessarily have the licensed personnel that can meet all the needs that the state requires for after-school care. And so if we actually work together to even help share personnel, you could quadruple, and the vice mayor, we've talked about this, you could, I think it's quadruple the number of children that are being served after school in the recreation centers if it's done as a team effort between the school district and the recreation. That's very, very important stuff, because it's a need that everyone has. And it would be an affordable need that could be answered, because everything else is unaffordable, basically. So those would be two examples.
So those are great, and I'm very excited about those ideas. I do want to maybe clarify the difference between shared services and service bureau.
Yeah.
In terms
I'm
of
not sure what the
revenue
service-
generation, service bureau might be something like, maybe there's a tangential school district to CPS, and we would handle some part of their financial accounting. But we might have to add staff on our part, but we could charge more than the cost we'd have to incur. It could be a revenue, that sort of, or maybe it has to do with transportation. Maybe we combine our transportation efforts with another district to have more efficiency because of scale.
Absolutely.
So those kinds of things are more service bureau versus shared services. They all have good positive impact. They would be two different paths for revenue generation or impact generation.
Some years ago, we did
Does that
offer
make sense,
administrative
Mike? Yeah.
services for a number of things. Like it lasted for a while. It's a great idea. I think it's very important.
I mean, we have a lot of deep expertise at CPS.
Yes.
And I think it's an opportunity to do that. It's also an opportunity to look at places where CPS doesn't have capacity to justify X number of folks, but CPS, like you said, plus a neighboring district, okay, now we both get a huge benefit. And yeah, there's a lot of opportunities there, but I understand both concepts and how they can help us out.
And the public wants to see it.
Yeah, so to Board Member Cross's point, I'm curious to know, I'm glad to hear that we have history in being able to navigate something of the sort. Do you know of any other current districts that are operating from that space or that scope? And then my second thought would be, while there could be great benefit, what are the ramifications? What are the challenges of that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can definitely do a deeper dive. Just off the top of my head, I don't know of a lot of districts that do this as much around here. I know a lot of your ESCs are kind of built that way. The guest that we had for the last Money Matters with Mike, Ryan Pendleton, he has an organization called Shared Services Alliance, and they work out of the northern. They kind of look at the northern part. And what's kind of different about them is traditionally your ESCs are focused on the academic side. Like we talk at least, once a month in here about Hamilton County ESC and the services they provide the district. But what his team does is much more on the financial, operational, that sort of side. And I think that's an interesting model for us. One of the interesting things about him is he's the treasurer of record for 5 school districts right now.
Well,
Because he has the capacity, if a school district in his area, the treasurer resigns, retires, whatever, they can't fill someone, his team has the capacity to step in and provide stability and to provide those services for the district as long as they need. I'm not ambitious enough to want to take over other school districts as the treasurer, but definitely if someone needed help with payroll, if someone needed help with accounting, with getting their forecast done, I think I would put Kevin against anyone else who does forecast in the state, and if someone was stuck and said, hey, could we offer those as services?
I think that's a long-held effort in Hamilton County for the smaller districts to share treasurers. That's I won't say normal, but it's not unusual. Just like the smaller cities and villages will share general counsel. An attorney will be the general counsel for 11 of the smallest towns within 30 miles or so. So this is the kind of stuff, it's all different ways. And the reality is people are struggling and there's going to be more and more of an interest in doing this. The bad thing is you lose your own people at 100%. And you do take additional responsibilities, and it's understanding that particular culture or those goals. But I think more and more, and one of the moods in the state right now is what school districts are still going to be standing, and how much unifying, how much coalescing are we going to have among the 607 school districts? Because not all of them are going to be around in 5 years. And in Hamilton County, we know that there are districts right now that are thinking that they won't be here in 3 years. So these are important things to kind of go for.
Yes, all these recent changes to state law makes it makes it very unlikely that all 607, I guess, school districts now are going to survive for the next 5 years. I mean, you will see. I'll try to pull the data. It's a little hard. You'll see after all the forecasts are filed. We'll come back, which will be probably the March meeting.
That'd be great.
We'll come back and look at how many districts
March meeting, yeah.
Yeah, how many districts statewide are now in financial caution, financial oversight, et cetera, and we can compare it to prior years. And I believe you'll see a very large spike in those.
Great, thank you. Jim?
Regarding your evaluation, just the administrative piece of it, we have to wrap this up by the end of this month? Or,
Technically, yeah, I don't. I mean, this is where I'm struggling. Yes, we should.
Next month.
I also feel like I have not had a full year.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to really feel like, it's very hard to say I should get a full year evaluation when I've been in the position only for 4 or 5 months. But we've also changed the policy, so we want to honor policy. I mean, I think it's very legitimate going forward. So from this year to next year, I feel like we're in good shape. We're in this kind of odd transition period.
and do we need to set new goals
Yes,
this month for the coming year? 12 months for you?
probably next month.
Next month.
It would have to be February, no later than February.
February,
I mean,
okay.
obviously, the sooner you set goals, the easier it is to achieve. You have more time to work on
Right.
them. So.
And it would appear to me some of these goals that were set, really, a lot of them need to continue. Yeah,
There's some modification.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a couple that I'm want to modify or change.
okay.
Ideas with that?
I'm glad you raised that point because that actually was a thought that I had as well. And so as you're talking about how do you honor both spaces, right? And we do want to make sure that your evaluation is fair, and you have not had obviously a full year to be able to serve in that space. So I'm wondering if it would kind of fall under more of the lines of just like feedback, like constructive feedback, to help you continue to navigate in the space that, you know, you have carved out with these goals that you have set. And then my other point or just question is around the previous finance committee. Was there kind of, I guess, like some type of platform that you had in place to start talking about what the evaluation or feedback would look like? I don't know if it was any work kind of done in that area. I know it wasn't that long ago that we approved the policy, but I didn't know
Yeah,
kind of what the plan was
At
from the previous
at
committee.
The work schedule, we came up with at least some, what the evaluation was to look like. And as you point out, 60% this and
Yeah, yeah,
30% that, but, and the timeline we knew was going to be difficult. I think the idea of feedback would be reasonable. I think an actual score for these months that Mike has been, so that we could start afresh. I think the board would feel, comfortable scoring, Mike. I think we have to figure out what the scorecard looks like for the voting, so to speak. And would that be based on these particular goals that you've established prior? I mean, but I do think you need a score.
Yeah, I would say these goals, but scored kind of to date would make sense,
Yeah,
right? Like
that-
progress to date.
yeah.
Obviously, these goals were built for a much
Absolutely.
longer thing, but you can say, are we on track, off track? I know Mr. McDole has a scoring tool, especially for the treasurer standards that we could get
Yes.
to this committee to say, you know, and he can send it out and collect it and kind of,
Because we were looking to make sure that there was some similarity between the superintendent kind of structure and the treasurers, but I think we need to do that scoring and be able to start anew sometime in February. But maybe we can talk a little bit about what that would be, and we'll reach out to Paul McDole. I'm glad we have a former policy person here, just keep us in line with what the policy should be and make sure we stay current with that. So maybe we can talk and get Paul involved.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
I could share, maybe you have a copy of it, but the scoring card we use for the superintendent would be a good model. You know, wouldn't be the same, but the concept could be.
Yeah, share it. Why don't you share it with the three of
yeah.
us?
Okay.
And then we'll talk to Paul about manipulating and developing the other
All
score.
right, I'll try to get that done in the next,
5 minutes. No, I'm teasing.
I changed my vote.
He wants to be chair now. Too bad you can't impeach a board president or a committee chair. I've looked into that over these 18 years. Unimpeachable.
So
there's no
maybe within a week from now?
That'd be great.
Okay,
Be great.
all right.
Thank you.
Keep going.
Yeah, the rest of the slides here are the standards. We're not gonna go through those.
No.
But they're included, so for reading, but the state does publish, just like we do for superintendent's treasurer standards. So I think for the sake of keeping the meeting going, I would say we move to financial reports.
Please.
Okay, and then I'll stop talking and I'll let Kevin talk for a while.
I'll be brief, though.
No, you won't.
I'll try to be brief. So we'll go back to slide 4. And just kind of point out some of the key differences you'll see between November and December.
Great.
One of the biggest things is, and we always talk about December being our low cash flow month. So the little teeny orange slice is Star, Ohio. So we had to pull out most of our money that we were holding there,
Wow.
which then kind of really reshapes the pie in terms of what we have in long-term investments. The other thing we did this year, if you'll recall, 2 years ago, we did some short-term borrowing to get through this period. One of the things we had to do this time was kind of liquidate some of our not really the long-term items, but things that are in there, such as certificates of deposit that Red Tree manages for us, and some other like commercial paper. It's easily redeemable. So we did pull some funds there. The good news is yesterday we received our first property tax advance from the county. It was on the smallish size, about 7 million, which is kind of what we expected from last year. In 2 weeks, we should get a heftier amount as tax bills are coming due. So, but we're monitoring that so that we can weather the storm till we get to that point.
Just one thing too, just as we get the tax advances, we do have a policy in place about cash balances, and so we have a low and a high number. So we transfer money into, our working kind of operating cash bank account as it gets low. But as we get these full tax advances, we will transfer some money back into investments and probably back into Star Ohio, just so we can earn some interest.
Right.
Yeah, I think initially we'll go to Star Ohio, which still has a pretty good return. And then as we get through the year and we're more projecting out next December, we can always make the decision to have Red Tree go back into, certificates of deposit, those kind of things. That would get a little bit of higher return, but tie that money up for a period of time. The next slide is the cash balance by fund. If you'll notice, obviously general fund has moved down to about 44 million. The debt service balance, 20 million is sinking fund, actually about 23 million is sinking fund. The rest, and I really didn't point this out, the tax budget, but I thought it was an important thing that I thought of later. When you look at the cash flow in the debt service fund, we get taxes at 2 periods of time, and then we make our big payments in June and December. So when you look at that like on a 6-month basis, it looks like we have a lot of cash, but it's really because of that timing issue. We're holding cash to make the principal payments or the interest payments. And that's kind of the case here too. So, we're gonna get some more revenue in the next month or couple months from the county that'll bump that number up. We don't have debt payments again till June, but we need to have that money in place to make those payments at the time. Mr. Crossett has a question.
Is it possible to present that in a way where those funds are, I guess you can't call them specifically restricted, but maybe committed or something, or some word around that to reflect that?
So I think using USAS standards, I mean, the money in the debt service by definition is reserved for debt service. And like on the annual financial report, it would be restricted for debt service. Yeah.
I think the activity of putting in that fund kind of is our way of saying it's restricted and we can't.
Yeah, and once we put the monies into that fund or the tax revenue goes in, we can't arbitrarily pull it out.
Yeah, that's one of the things for fund accounting, this is probably just for anyone listening, is it's easy to take money from general fund to another fund. So, we do that to debt services, we do that to internal services, et cetera. It's in almost all cases, it's a one-way flow, right? And so one thing we may talk to you about this year, completely off topic, is setting up a fund for retirement benefits. So that's a fairly large expense every year that we have to pay, as people retire.
Get it fed.
It's an obligation.
It's an obligation. A lot of districts, I think best practices that used to create a separate fund for that.
Right.
Again, the problem is, once you put that money in,
You can't move it.
it doesn't come back out. So you have to be smart about how much you put in and when you put in. Sorry, Kevin.
Keep going.
No, it's fine. I think that's a good discussion. The next slide is the statement of cash flow, which Mike usually puts together for me.
Yeah, this is probably our bottom for the year. At the end of the year month, this is knock on wood, the bottom of where we'll be. And
I love this report.
I appreciate your additions to it. Yes, I do.
Well, there's still money in it.
Yeah. So hopefully this is as bad as it gets, and then we rebound this year. But as Mr. Ashley mentioned, we started getting our tax advances.
Okay.
Don't forget, we need to send them a new letter.
A new letter for 2 weeks.
for 2
we should
weeks.
get
And,
another.
and they're on a schedule for roughly every 2 weeks for the end of this month and through February.
Yeah.
So
This,
that's nice.
this report might look really good in that popular,
Popular report,
yeah, what popular ACR, right? Did I say it right?
AFC or ACFR.
ACFR. yeah.
ACFR.
Yes.
That's just a suggestion.
Well, it's a good suggestion.
Yeah, and I think if we show a few year,
Yeah.
comparison would be nice for that as well. So the next slide is cash balance versus encumbrances. Again, pointing out the nuances. 2 years ago, we had done the short-term borrowing, so that's why we had a larger cash balance. If you took that 75 million out, it would be a lot closer. The other thing for the current year, we have encumbrances out through June, so POs are in place for things that are going to be paid through June. That's the blue column. At this moment, we don't have enough cash to cover that, but it's simply because we're waiting on the tax revenue, so. But if you simply look at that slide in isolation, that might be something you would question. Did you have a question?
So, yeah, so for the particular area that you're speaking on for fiscal year '26, are we expected to see the cash balance increase up until March? Or will it continually increase throughout the year to cover those, I guess, restricted areas that need to be paid?
So basically, the county will do a February settlement. And so around March, we'll get all the property tax from this half settlement. But they don't start issuing advances till January 1st. So that really comes in between January 1st into March. And we'll get, half of our revenue, 160 million probably for the general fund. So that'll all be in our coffer by March, sometime in March. And then there's some other graphs.
The next slide, I think, is probably a good way to explain it.
So we'll start to see it flip though, is what
Yeah.
ultimately what I'm
Yeah,
inquiring about. Okay.
you'll see, we hit our high point March, April. If you go to the next slide, you can see we rebound from here. This is always the slide 9, Rob. This is always the bottom of the trough.
I wasn't sure we kept this slide because we moved.
Which is kind of scary, but this is the bottom of the trough, and then we rebound kind of up through March, April, and then we trail off again until we start getting the money
It's
in
the same
July.
cycle all the time.
This is live the cycle. I mean, the good news is at least we get tax advances. I mean, imagine if we only got the once a year settlement. I mean, you could opt as a district to just wait until April and get one big lump sum.
Yeah.
We do not have that luxury.
So just to say, I think, the fortunate thing is we kind of, weathered the cycle. This, again, is our low point. And then as we get all that revenue and we work to the end of the year, we'll be back at about the same point. And then they start up with tax advances the 1st of July as well.
Okay.
The next slide, so again, this is general fund cash balance, is what this represents. The next slide is revenue by source. You can see,
For just the general fund.
yes, just the general fund. And just to explain, so the third paragraph is the actual for this year to this point. The second column is last year's actual at this point, and the one before that is the actual 2 years ago. The right column is our budget kind of broken down by category. So if you see our budget for taxes, the blue is 365. We've received 165. And how that works is the first half settlement, so January, what I'll call the February settlement, is usually higher because some people pay their taxes for the full year. And so historically, we always have a higher amount, a higher percentage on that first half settlement.
It's about, 55, 45?
I think that's
Somewhere
about
in
right.
that range, yeah.
And then green is the state foundation. So that's twice a month, we get a settlement from the state, pretty much like clockwork. the number does change. So that's a pretty level funding source. Runs about 6 million because there's a deduction for retirement system, which we started doing this year as opposed to paying those separately. But that's a pretty consistent, twice a month we get that amount. The only reason it changes is when they reset enrollment, or sometimes they'll add some funding for something. But again, that's pretty flat or consistent source, I will say. The all other revenue, kind of when we talk about the forecast, has all sorts of things: TIF, CRAs, Medicaid reimbursement, all of those kind of things. So again, but you can see this year's actual 300 million, last year's 306. So fairly consistent between the 2 years. And then we show a percentage. So we're at 47% of our budget. As far as revenue, last year we were at 48. So again, I think fairly consistent.
Good.
Next slide is kind of doing the same thing with expenditures. The blue is salaries and benefits. This year's actual salaries and benefits, 236 versus last year, 231. And then the budget, the working budget, has carryover purchase orders and then our current year appropriations. So again, looking at 49.7%. We've already had one 3-pay month. We have one more 3-pay month coming up. So we would expect that to be around 50. The second half might be a little higher because of, the new contract period typically would affect that. But again, nothing out of the ordinary on that slide. The next slide is what we are calling unencumbered or uncommitted. So the light blue is our actual expenditures against the working budget. The dark blue is the encumbrances. And then as we've talked before, as far as payroll is not something that we encumber, but it is set aside. So within the budget, the green represents what's been, or what is reserved to make payroll for the rest of the year. So the key point is the yellow slide, which I think is 30 million.
30.6.
In terms of unencumbered. And as we've talked about, some of those things are committed, but they don't go through a purchase order process. For instance, expenditures that are charged by state foundation, so they come through that. We don't have a purchase order necessarily, but when we record the transaction, we expense those off. So I wouldn't say, oh, good, we have this much money available within the budget. So just clarify that. However, there is some things there that may not get used in terms of budget. So it's just our way of tracking where it is and then comparing it to last year. It was 39, it was a little bit higher last year. One of the differences, I think, salary savings, I think we right-sized that a little bit so that it was a higher number last year, and this year I think it's a lower number. So that may be part of the difference. Again, in my opinion, nothing unusual at that point. The next section is preschool.
On preschool, you want to again explain slide 16,
Okay.
which is the students benefiting from tuition assistance by year.
So in terms of what I'm looking at is I'm taking this right off of the early childhood reports. The 569 is where they have identified that many students that received some level of tuition assistance. Some of those kids are full-time, some are part-time, some are split funded, so maybe they get a federal component, but then they also, the big thing is last dollar in is what the levy money is designed for and
Right.
used for. And again, they've been aggressive in, at least on the CPS side of preschool, of finding all the dollars that are available first And then this represents the kids that that levy primarily supports.
Jim?
I had a question. So is the 569, are those kids that are in the CPS school
Yes.
buildings?
Yes.
And so we have a tax levy that gives our district, about half of that money comes to our district. So why would those kids, since they're CPS students, why would they need to pay tuition and need assistance?
So it's not paying tuition. In this case, it's covering their tuition costs.
Okay.
So there are students who may not qualify based on income.
So this doesn't reflect enrollment?
Correct. The earlier slide, so there's 1,829 students in preschool, CPS only. And again, that shows that slide 14, kind of the breakdown of, which ones are only preschool expansion, which one have a federal component. So under just preschool tuition, 192, I'm assuming, I don't know the answer for sure, those may be students who are actually paying tuition, so they don't qualify for any tuition assistance.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways that preschool is funded. At CPS, I mean, there's preschool disability, which gets state foundation funding. There's obviously, we have a Head Start Title I kind of combo that provides a lot of seats. We have a very large early childhood education grant from the state that we've been very successful with and managed to fill all the seats they gave us. That's about $3 million a year. And then there are, like Kevin said, there are families that pay tuition. So we have a lot of different buckets that kind of come in to do our overall preschool thing.
So why does a family pay tuition? Is it a
Montessori. maybe?
special program, or do they live outside the district? Or?
Preschool is not part of your normal K-12, right? So it's on top of that. So the only kind of state funding, it comes for preschool disability classrooms. Where the preschool promise comes in is in looking at income levels and then providing levels of tuition assistance.
Got it, thank you.
And just for clarity, it could be that tuition assistance on top of
Other stuff.
other grants that we may receive from the state for additional funding to cover the tuition for preschool.
Yeah, and tuition assistance like is the last dollar in. So part of our commitment with Preschool Promise, and part of how that works is we use all of the other funding sources first. So if you have a kid and you can cover their costs through preschool expansion or through Head Start, that's going to be primary. And so as you kind of work down that, there are kids who don't qualify, who aren't in those seats. And then you would look at income to see if they would get tuition assistance.
Okay. Final thing, we just passed the levy, obviously, and Preschool Promise was a part of that. Can you explain what that process entailed, or what it means in connection to passing the levy and how those dollars are, allocated, whether it's like first dollar in and last dollar out? Just help me conceptualize that and make sure others.
Yep, sure. So out of the levy, $15 million of that is dedicated to preschool.
Of
That-
48.
Of the 48, 15 of the 48 is dedicated to preschool. That 15 is then divided between CPS and between Preschool Promise. And we updated the MOU, I think it was signed last year. There's an updated MOU that has a formula. So there's a formula that we get together, I get together with Hector, their finance director. We put our numbers in, we create a formula. Each group gets a share, right? So their share is pretty much all of what they have to spend. I mean, they don't have the level of other resources that we do. So their share they take and they budget. And you'll see some of that's in the slide. Our share, we take it and we apply it to our budget. But we definitely apply by last dollar in. or it's kind of the last dollars used. Obviously, we want to use those federal grants first. Make sure we're spending federal dollars. We want to use those state grants second, and then we'll spend that expansion money for our students who qualify.
Thank you.
And just to add to that, the new agreement, that share breakdown is based on enrollment. So it's looking at enrollment for CPP or for preschool promise, as well as enrollment for CPS at a period of time, and then you use that formula for the year. But as he mentioned, we'll go back to slide 17. This is what I would call just a quick financial statement, or a profit loss, if you will, statement for preschool expansion. Revenue budget, again, like Mike mentioned, is the 15 million. We've received half of that in terms of tax revenue. And then the far right column shows you the actual from the prior year. So it's current year budget, current year actual, prior year actual. The line on there says payments to United Way. United Way facilitates the funds that CPP utilizes. So in other words, we as a public district are making it to a nonprofit who then it's used by CPP. So in terms of budget, you'll see they're budgeted at 9.4 million, which is a larger percentage. Just to kind of give you another perspective here, for our district, for the district, we also provide like itinerant specialists and other specialists who are paid through CPS who do evaluation of all of the students that are enrolled in preschool. So that's an extra cost that we have at the district. The tuition assistance, again, is a calculation. You can see at this point, we're actually under what we've budgeted, but with the new agreement, that may change. So we're right around that time where that's going to be evaluated. So I think that's the key things on that.
Jim?
Thank you. The minus, the negative 3.5 million for this fiscal year, is some of that covered by the accumulation of levy money that we didn't spend in the early years that we're spending now? Is that covering all that 3.5 million? Is that where that
That's
is?
exactly what that is.
So does that mean in the fiscal 27, we won't have that benefit anymore? And that'll impact, maybe the biggest line that it might impact would be the payments to United Way for the next year? Is that?
I would agree with that. Yes, I think one of the real concerns is living in, now that we have this renewal levy and we're grateful for it, but living within the 15 million. Yeah, that at the start, as you mentioned, in the startup years, we didn't spend as much money as we collected. Obviously that money's earmarked, so it has to be kind of set aside. And we're getting to that point where there's no more accumulated funds, and so both parties are going to have to live on the 15 million a year.
So by definition for FY '27, that net income number is probably going to need to be pretty close to zero.
Probably, I believe there's a little bit of carryover, and so
zero.
Yeah, pretty close to. I mean, most of our there's a little bit of extra, and one of the conversations that Preschool Promise will have is how they want to do that. Do they want to stretch that out? Do they want to use a little bit of it each year? Do they want to do one more big year and then take? It's about where the dip ends up being. So.
The critical thing there was the decision to recognize that it was no longer about preschool expansion. It's no longer about growth in preschool as it was back in when we first passed it and when we first renewed it. And the decision to only go for the 48 million was a decision that was based upon that we're going to be asking the voters for something bigger in the very near future, and we didn't want to ask for what we really needed for preschool And it, as I recall, how many millions of dollars, what, 48 million bought in 2016 versus, versus what it would be now. And it was like 65 million or 68 million, whatever it was, would be the change. But, and we were fortunate that the preschool promise people agreed that it was not time, even though we needed it to go to the public. So we do have to be looking at things like preschool because of this, either holding or lessening, or with federal grants, as we segue for that, what we can actually afford now regarding federal grants, revenue, what we can do or not do. So these things are they are being diminished as we speak. Next. Ready for Nan?
Segue for state and federal
And that
grants,
was a
right?
perfect setup for me.
Thanks, Cav.
So, yes, I will be here to update you on the state and federal grants situation. Next slide, there you go. All right, so this slide does, for the first time, include the carryover from fiscal year '25 because of the delays and the extensions that we had. So it went up from about 53 million to 64 million. And so that is reflected a little bit in the fact that we're slightly below our target line of 34%. We're at 33% because we pretty much received those funds at the very end of December. So we're now working on budgeting, meeting with managers, allocating and loading all of those funds. So that did bring our, our success rate down a little bit because we obviously increased only one part of that fraction. But we're happy to have those funds available to us now to start spending. Next slide. So this is just a brief summary. Again, this is month 6 of our 15-month cycle at the end of December. So our goal was 34%. We would have been at 40%, before those funds got added in, but now we do have those additional funds. Yeah.
The grant, thank you. Grants for non-public, are we part of the process of applying for those grants and administering all those grants?
Now, most of the grants that we kind of talk about are all of our entitlement grants. And so for all of our major grants, Title I, Title II, Title III, Title IV, IDEA B, they get a proportionate share based on their number of students. And so the state calculates that out and kind of automatically deducts that. So all of our grant awards, our total amounts, like the 60 million, includes their share. And it's kind of interestingly varies by grant as far
Sure.
as the relative percentage.
But do we have administrative costs to manage all
We
that?
do, and so they withhold, I believe, 5% from their grants. So we have one person on my team dedicated to non-public, and then we have staff members that kind of
So
manage it.
we get money to cover our costs of administration?
Yeah, their salaries. We have 4 people that work directly with non-public administration, and their
Great.
salaries are 100% covered
Beautiful.
by those funds.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, they get a little piece of each one
Yeah,
that they withhold.
Yeah.
And
It's
they
like-
do a
it's
great
our
job.
It's our legally required service bureau.
yeah, okay. Yeah,
Exactly.
We're piloting it.
And we do also claim some indirect cost to work towards payroll, AP, all those other things that aren't directly charged. We do charge some indirect costs at the end of the year. So I can't say it's penny for penny, but,
yeah, great, thank you.
good question. All right. As I already kind of said, this month, we were finalizing those expenditure reports. We had a change to the programming at ODEW, so that held us up a little bit, but that's done, and we're moving on to 27, starting to look at allocations for next year as we continue to spend out this year. And of course, those links are always there for the Title I spending, the school improvement spending, and of course, the overall grant summary. All those links are always on these slides for anybody that's interested. All right, next slide, Rob. All right, so I did go ahead and break out the carryover just so you could kind of see each year, as our goal. And as we try to spend appropriately, the carryover total amounts are decreasing over time as we're
Right.
doing a better job of spending. So for these entitlement grants, For the public side only, we were right about 10 million that just came in. Most of that, or a lot of that, was already budgeted for salaries and so on, because obviously, we don't get the full amount in the beginning of the year. So a lot of it's not really, extra money to spend. It's already budgeted for the rest of the year's salaries and so on. But we did get a little bit more Title I than we'd originally planned. So we are having those discussions on how to fully utilize that. And we're still in pretty good shape overall of, being at our target. All right, next slide if there's no questions. So to continue, I guess, my tradition of kind of just giving you like a little brief overview of one of our grants or a special topic, I decided this month to talk about Title IV-A, which is the Student Support and Academic Enrichment funds. I don't think they're as well known as things like IDIB and Title I that have been around for a long time. These actually were new in the 2018 school year. And these funds, in my opinion, or I believe, were kind of a direct response to the increase in school shootings and just the recognition of all the other kinds of traumas that are facing our kids with bullying and suicide rates, drug rates, just really, recognizing there's more to a kid than just their grades, and that all of these things have a critical impact on their grades. And so this grant, which only started out about 15 million that first year, this current year we have 3.9 million. So they have continued to add money to this as they see the impact and the importance of all of these activities. So this year with carryover, we have 3.9 million. Almost 25% of that goes to the non-public schools, 700,000. So this grant has 3 specific focuses that are very kind of diverse. The first one is access to a well-rounded education. And so, where Title I has always really been kind of focused on ELA and math and core academic subjects, this is also a recognition that there's, more to kids' life and interest than, reading, writing, and arithmetic, that these other areas also have a critical influence on their performance and their interests. The second area is the safe and healthy schools that I referred to. You're required to prioritize what they call high-need schools based on poverty or status, and they even include a specific call-out to funnel these funds to persistently dangerous schools, and so as well as drug-free. So these funds really are looking at, the recognition, the increasing recognition that, everything in a kid's life is going to impact their success in school, and we need to try to address all of those needs. And then the third category of spending is improving the use of technology. Again, just recognizing that technology is changing so fast that school districts don't always have the money to keep up. And so these funds can be used to, train teachers on technology, buy technology, help, just help the districts take advantage of all the resources out there. Any questions on any of that?
Kendra?
I have a question on the previous slide.
Sure.
No, the one where we're talking about just providing the resources for students beyond academics and trying to honor the whole child. And you said something about, I guess these funds are allocated for students that may be experiencing, I don't know, maybe high crime in their, I don't know if they're in their like neighborhoods respective to their schools, and there may be a lot of trauma and things of that sort, correct?
Absolutely.
With these funds being allocated, is there an expectation that we see improvement in like the student outcomes, focusing on wellness as well as academics? Do we receive more funds if we see growth in those areas? I'm just trying to identify, yes, we want monies attached to that, but we also want to, I guess, see outcomes. And so I'm trying to get an idea of how that money,
Yeah,
those
so-
funds work?
Absolutely. Like most title funds, these funds, which was kind of my next topic, are subject to all of the standard regulations of, like maintenance of effort, and which means we're still spending the same money ourselves, but are doing above and beyond activities with these grant funds. And this grant in particular really stressed meaningful consultation with stakeholders. I keep talking about parent engagement, but this grant also was highly focused on reaching out to community partners, people with the expertise to accomplish these goals. Again, it's required, and we are required during our monitoring and our audits to demonstrate that we're having, again, meaningful consultation, that we're having measurable outcomes, that we're doing evidence-based activities. And so whenever we have our annual audits, those are the kind of things they ask for. They look for before and after numbers. Things like, one of our goals this year for the district, for our schools is a decrease in discipline rates, equitable discipline. So they look at all of those metrics when they're auditing our, effective and appropriate use of these funds.
Okay, that's really helpful to know. And then how are we using the data that we're collecting, as you talked about, like discipline? How are we determining what schools, benefit mostly from these funds?
Okay. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Rob. if you don't mind. Well, I don't have like these specific data, but so the next question would be logically, so what are we doing with all this money that we're getting? And so I will say that traditionally, one thing to point out, that this grant has some parameters that you're required to spend at least 20% on well-rounded education, at least 20% on safe and healthy, and then a maximum of 15% on technology infrastructure. They really want it to be more like in the classroom, teaching teachers how to use AI, teaching teachers, making STEM labs, things like that. And so traditionally, since this came out kind of with a lot at the timing of COVID funds and all of that, we had focused mostly on the safe and healthy schools with our funds, because we were devoting a lot of the ESSER funds to well-rounded education, and we had a lot of extra money for those kind of things. In the last 3 years since I've been here, we are seeing we're kind of trying to balance that a little better, because we lost all those ESSER funds. And so from the safe and healthy schools perspective, we have used this to establish the PBIS social workers. We pay their salary and benefits. So they work within the different schools to, again, work on student motivation and the things like that are less tangible than just grades, on SEL curriculum to help the schools, focus on the social emotional learning, community resource managers, and the school resource coordinators. Now within that aspect, I don't really have the information on, we have 9 district PBIS social workers that work throughout the schools to assist with all of these issues that the kids are facing. And so I could invite Superintendent Director House, to speak to those issues, that runs that department. But that is how we have gotten these funds to the schools. And then more recently, again, with the expiration of ESSER funds, we have been investing these funds in our world language programs and the expansion of those programs. These are definitely expansion dollars. They want to see new activities. Again, let's just supplement, not supplant. So they want to go to, new initiatives targeted towards these goals. We spend some of these funds on the International Baccalaureate programs. This year, we launched an algebra companion program to focus on algebra performance, on iReady curriculum, and some of it goes to the athletic directors and enrichment coordinators. So that's our well-rounded portion.
Just final question, as you're talking about the funds being allocated and definitely looking for new programming, are we auditing and being, making sure that we're being fiscally responsible and making sure that we're streamlining resources, right? I know that we have a number of community partners and things of that sort. But again, I'm just thinking from a systemic lens. If we want to see like true results, making sure that broadly there's this comprehensive scope versus, okay, this school has a influx of resources but they may not all be speaking to one another. So again, I'm glad that we have the dollars available, but again, wanting to make sure that they're all working in tandem and not in opposition or in contrast with one another.
Yeah, and like I said, Director House manages this initiative, and she does have several programs that were initiated starting several years ago. She runs programs, for example, for trauma training for educators. It's open to everybody in the district, where everybody is learning how to recognize students in trauma, how to respond. I took the class myself this year, and it was very educational and helpful. So she has those initiatives running. We've also had district-wide initiatives for our discipline procedures and, and switching from punitive to positive reinforcements and those kind of things. And so she's been rolling that out gradually.
Yeah.
And again, that extends to everybody in the school building. So they're reaching out, because everybody interacts with the kids, and it could be the bus driver that sees something and, needs to reach out to that child. It could be the lunchroom worker that just, notices that kid that's down or makes an offhand comment. So she has been doing a really good job of really not just the social workers need to know how to spot these things. Everybody needs to have their eyes and ears open, and you might be the one that intervenes and and helps or saves a child, because you just don't know how they're going to exhibit the needs. And so I would be happy to invite her to, come and speak about those programs, because I don't want to speak for her. They're the experts.
Right. And I'll just say this in closing, I do know that Director House does an amazing job with making sure that there's that level of advocacy around the whole child and making sure that everyone is knowledgeable. She was really instrumental in helping to develop the mental health and wellness plan that we recently adopted. So my thinking around it was just understanding how the financial aspect connects to that work.
And I will just say, this is something, as we are spending our carryover, we're having less and less money for these programs every year, and the need is getting greater and greater and greater. Like, you could throw money at this constantly and never, never meet the need, because, our kids have a lot of needs, and this encompasses so many facets of their life that it is a challenge for her to, be able to prioritize and focus these funds, because
Well, and it's hard to see results
hard to measure.
that are positive, very frankly. And the additional pressures, the additional challenges make it very hard. It's like trying to teach, trying to improve somebody's literacy rate if we can't control the population rate. It's the challenges are so great, it's difficult to show that you're making headway, you're making results. It's hard to measure whether or not there's that kind of
That's a
result.
great point, because you measure how many kids,
Yeah.
succumb or fail, but you don't know how many kids didn't succumb
Be safe, yeah.
or didn't take part in bullying, or, because, they did have some kind of outreach or somebody, stopped them. So those numbers are hard to measure.
Oh, we're gonna get there.
Anything, well, pray every day. Other items within the grants that you want to share?
No, that was all I had for
Does that
today.
take care of all of it?
I think Ms. Bolton's on a segue role today, because she just
Yeah.
talked about measuring and investment. So key
try.
key performance indicators and return on investment updates. It'll be short for this month. We're taking a
Yeah.
break from doing KPI reviews. We finished up our 200s. Yes, thank you, Rob, already ahead of me. So on this calendar here, we have topics that have been laid out. February, March, we did our over 200, or we'll do our under 200 KPI updates. So I'll do those. I won't invite folks for those, as that's kind of like 600 contracts. That could be a little crowded. But I'll have a way of updating and voting on those for you guys.
Right.
For April through June, we have some topics that were laid out. So the idea of this calendar was to get board member or finance committee member input on different topics that we could do for return on investment. So one might be maybe not a return on investment, but maybe we could look at the dollars spent and the activities that Dr. House and her team are doing and see how those correlate. That's just an idea or an example. I gave a few examples, April through June, of things that have been on the topics before from previously requested finance committee members, something like data coaches and life coaches. Those are up for change if we would like, but there's other months that are in there. What it's going to happen is Mike's going to send out a Google form to you folks and the other board members to get your input on different topics that we could discuss here, and we'll send that out after
But
this meeting
these are a
today.
matter of record that you are going to be doing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
They're not being supplanted, so to speak?
No, ma'am. Not unless you tell me otherwise.
No, I
If you
hear
three
you.
would like to see those done, they will stay there. So those are going to be on the calendar for coming up. And then we'll have anything else that we can add on depending on June and July meetings. And then back in October through December, we'll be back to our big over 200 KPI updates. So those are our KPI updates for this month. Any questions?
Well, we're very excited about that we're doing this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just keep
But
the,
I would add what we just talked about, especially with the grant and with the expertise that we have now on the finance committee. Are you sending that,
I will send that out today.
okay, are you going to send it to all board members, or that would be good?
Sent to all board members.
Yeah.
I think it's the same survey probably as last year.
Yep.
We just wanted to breach it here before you just got a
We
random survey.
appreciate that.
Before you got a random survey in your,
That's
in your
right.
inbox, but yes. Cool.
I think
Next.
I'm
All
passing it
right,
back
so a
to Mike.
couple little, let's keep moving here. Another fun part of our day is CRA agreements. There are 3 this time around. As we usually say, do these have the potential to have CPS students in them? Probably not, but
Yeah, the city continues not to invite families to come to the city.
so,
And this is a problem. And this is talk about shared services. There should be a shared vision that you would want to have families live in your city. But this continues to be a problem.
but it's about, a little under $500,000 of annual revenue, which we will.
Well, we like the money.
We will gladly take the annual revenue.
I'd like the enrollment too.
Yeah, and just a reminder, based on the agreement that we agreed to end of last year, there's a 5-year agreement with the city that as long as we get our share, we kind of rubber stamp these agreements. And so they will flow through to be approved at the next regular board meeting, and then they get added to the rolls. So that is kind of the operation we work under for the next 5 years.
And we appreciate the negotiations that go on with that, with the general counsel and the city. City's hard to negotiate with, very frankly.
They're pretty good negotiators.
Yeah, that's what they do.
At least with us, yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, dear.
So, and you kind of hinted at this, both of you, but as we're talking about the CRAs, obviously we know that there are certain investments that are being made in different neighborhoods. Have we begun to track how these developments are impacting our enrollment and the type of enrollment that we're seeing, or demographic of enrollment with our students? Because ultimately, what I'm just going to say, I'm just going to put out there, what I see when I look at the CRA and just the research around it, ultimately it perpetuates that gentrification process. And so ultimately, our student body that we currently have in certain communities, it may begin to look differently because they are not in a position, due to the property values going up or the taxes going up, property taxes going up, they're not in a position to remain in the neighborhood in which their school actually, is in. So have we begun to track what that looks like? And also, in a spirit of advocacy, what are we able to do? It might be a lot, but that's,
a lot.
that's what.
We-
Well, hey,
yeah,
we're
we-
talking about finance and we're talking
Yes.
about.
So the third word in the name of this committee is growth, and I think all this broadly falls into the growth conversation. We are looking at demographic shifts. I think more of that needs to be done. I think that is as we talk about a long-term financial plan, as we keep talking about that, or financial design maybe would be a better way to look at it. As we do a financial design, we need to understand where kids are going to be in 5, 10, 20 years, so that we can have schools that are in their neighborhoods, that are providing the services and the things they need. But yeah, I mean, ideally, all these things are economic development tools. So, I mean, you could say, like, if you have an empty lot and you're putting anything in, that's a benefit to the community. I mean, obviously, like you said, there's gentrification. There's certainly patterns of gentrification. You will also see, as you dig into the CRAs, that there are abatements in areas that are doing very well financially. You would not expect things to be abated in those areas, that are already kind of gentrified neighborhoods that are getting abatements on top of that. So there's a lot of pieces to it. And one thing I've thought about for this report to report out is to put the addresses in. We
Yes,
traditionally haven't done publicly, but maybe that's a thing.
it's important to do that.
Maybe the addresses in the neighborhoods, just so it makes it a little more public where these are going and what we're bound to. I don't know.
No, I think that would be important, and I know that one of the biggest things we've done in recent years regarding growth, besides adopting the strategy and the vision of growth rather than to shrink, which has been the process for most urbans, was the ad hoc committee meetings and the use of the buildings and where is the enrollment. And I know President Craig is very interested about zip codes. And we've got Jeremy working very hard about zip codes and where's the student population? How do we kind of redraw these lines? But I do think that there is a problem, obviously, a crisis in Cincinnati, which everybody knows, which is not just crime, but it's housing and affordable housing. And the gentrification piece of neighborhoods where we've, when I started, I can't quite do the numbers, but the number of children in Avondale versus the number of children that are in Avondale now, it's, I think, 1/5 of what it was. And we had a facilities master plan designed about enrollment before things happened regarding immigrant population, or the expansion from the inner city to the west side, because all of a sudden the west side opened itself up by virtue of whatever reasoning, instead of just the east side or the central corridor. So this is something we have to be very serious about. And I think it's zip codes, I think it's buildings, I think it's enrollment lines and what have you. It's also the fact that CFT is the one that is following mostly whether or not the TIF piece, but more particularly the CRAs, are benefiting us as much as they should. And that's been part of the whole negotiations process. We gain revenue, but we also lose revenue. And as you point out, we were on the commission, and when Mr. Smitherman was around, it worked pretty well for us. But the reality of this one commission was the fact that disproportionate amount of public dollars and abatement guarantees was going to people that didn't need it at all. It was ridiculous. It's going to wealthy neighborhoods instead of the neighborhoods where we need to raise families and keep people that are, safe in their houses. And the city has some major challenges. And most of it they've brought on themselves, and part of it is this abatement piece, not fairly distributed or equitably, really I should say equitably distributed. I mean, all you have to look at the amount of money that goes to Hyde Park in abatement. It's ridiculous. So we have to be a part of that planning, and we have to do it almost in spite of the city. Jim?
Yeah,
That's where we need to be.
thank you for those comments, both of you. Thank you for good comments. I think the idea of adding the neighborhood or the address is really good. Is it possible to get the full database of all these and have Jeremy put it in a map? That might be really interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
And
we,
again, there's been a great partnership with CFT as a result of all this, and they've been the better advocate, and frankly, can wield more power than we have been able to wield with city council, largely because of endorsements and what have you.
the other thing I would say about the other thing I would say about CRAs, if any CRA property owners are listening, our
It's about
January,
to happen.
our January CRA bills will be going out next week. So, I mean, we've had some folks already reach out and say, hey, where's our bills? This is the time of year that we send the bills out, so those will be going out in the mail next week.
Right. You had another comment, I think.
I think this is a great discussion, and again, the point that you highlighted, I mean, it's almost like that double edge. Yes, we are receiving revenue, but we're also losing revenue. And so, again, we want to make sure, or at least I know I do, want to make sure that, yes, we're able to invest in our communities and they grow, but we also want our students where CPS is home for them to remain and continue to be home, as well as inviting and welcoming other students that may not have been a part of our district. And so, again, just continuing to further have those conversations about what does that advocacy lens look like from our seat.
I think it's crucial, and I think the more we can see a bigger picture, and very frankly, and everybody knows where I am on this, the more we can spend on this sounds terrible, but the more we can spend on the bookends of this committee's title for the next year is going to be more important than in that middle. It's sort of like, I trust the teachers to teach. I'm trusting you all, the experts, to help us through that middle part of this committee, which is finance. But our role as board members is really about helping you with the budget, because that's our responsibility in the Ohio Revised Code, and to lead the growth piece. That's the board's role. And so I think the more we can look at the big picture, I think the better we'll be. And I appreciate you raising that issue. Okay.
Continuing?
Yep.
Okay, the next two slides we talked about, so we can skip through those. We talked about that during my evaluation, the popular annual
Yeah,
financial
great.
report.
I'm very excited about that. Make it pretty.
It's all about, it's got to make it pretty.
Make
yes.
it pretty. That's my recommendation.
Make it substantive.
No, forget that substantive stuff. She's new to finance. I'm into pretty.
I was gonna say,
As everybody will tell you, I love the good charts. I like color printout.
a good chart.
Substance,
Just,
well,
yeah,
substance will be pretty.
that is definitely where we pull in the marketing.
Okay,
folks.
next.
Strategic plan update. So I wish superintendent was here to give us an update. I know she.
Yeah, I hope
and-
everything's okay.
She and board president Craig had some additional meetings yesterday, and I believe she sent an
And
email to the
was-
board members to
We are
them.
fine. It's
So-
very exciting.
So we'll leave that to her to up. I think she's doing an updated committee of the whole next week, so we'll leave that. Did want to talk about A and B on here, so which I don't have slides for, Rob. So you can, no worries, you're good for a bit. So we talk about this financial design. So
Yes.
Chair Bolton and I have worked and then back and forth on our wordsmithing. I've thrown everything under plan, and she says, yeah, but it's maybe a little different than a plan, and she's right. And
She
she's
said there's no deliverables, so how can it be a
and she's
plan?
right, we're not at a deliverable stage now, so we're maybe a design stage. I was thinking maybe framework, but we'll get there.
It sounds too civil engineering.
Yeah, we'll get there. I mean, that's more for my math brain, so.
That's right.
So
My art
design,
brain.
the high level is, and I don't think this is a surprise to anyone, we need new operational dollars sooner rather than later. That is just the need as we look through everything that we talk about. We have opportunities. We have several opportunities coming up that we need to talk about, and some of this we can talk about in the timeline of levies piece. But all of this really is driven by what we're going to do strategically. And so part of the design concept is the strategic plan kind of defines your why. And then the financial design kind of is the other side of that coin that says, here's the resources you need to get there. I think that's a good way to start the conversation. I think the other thing that is really important, I think Ms. Bolton can share a lot for us, is kind of lessons learned from the 2016 levy. So that was the last time the district went for new money, which is now 10 years. I mean, we should pat ourselves in the back for the fact we have not asked for new money in 10 years. That is quite an accomplishment for a school district of our size. But definitely would like to get from Ms. Bolton kind of her lessons learned. I think she's maybe the only person in the room who was actively involved in that 2016 campaign.
Well, the most critical thing was that it was an idea that was generated in the community. And it was an idea, when we talk in terms of preschool, it was actually an idea generated, and this will not take long. It was actually a national movement among the business community to find a way to invest in preschool. And one of the national leaders of this effort was John Pepper, who had then recently retired from Procter & Gamble, and long been a supporter of CPS and a leader, obviously, within the business community. And so that idea was something that was there. The district has long been Ohio's leader in early ed, early childhood ed. I mean, we were the ones that, even when the state wasn't doing anything about it, we were having half-day kindergarten and full-day kindergarten. We were the ones that were leading on Head Start in the state. So we have always been a leader in early childhood, but preschool, that was an option that we really needed to be able to do because there wasn't a lot of money for any of it. So we bought that, but we also understood that we had operational needs above and beyond preschool. So you merged a great idea, a transformative idea like preschool, with your needs, with your practical needs. And that became that $48 million. And those monies determined as how much that would be and how many kids there really were in the district, or would this be inside the district only, or would it be Hamilton County wide? How would this work? All those things had to be negotiated, and it took a year and a half to create even the first effort. At the core of it was that the business community was already engaged because it was a national movement, and the leadership of the business community wanted the preschool piece. That being the case, the business community invested hundreds of thousands of dollars to help pass that levy, and actually in the million mark, to pass that levy. And many hours. And so did the religious community, hours. So did all the parent communities, everybody. It was a complete unified effort in the name of preschool, but it also allowed us to continue our operational efforts. So one of the lessons learned is there has to be a big idea as well as an operational need, but more particularly to be able to justify that operational need. And in order to justify that operational need, we can tell people all we want, and we can have as many awards as you all get, and we're so proud, but there has to be an outside group, what I hear is going to be mutually acceptable, but that looks at our books, thinks about how we do things. Somehow after doing that, is what happens is that they give us a good housekeeping seal of approval that indeed financially, this is a stable place, financially these are reasonable people, financially there's a vision and there's a future financially and what have you, and they say, yes, this is warranted. So you have to have a grand idea, you have to have justified needs, you have to have verified needs, not to sound like Reagan, trust but verify, but that's important. And that group also puts together recommendations and some of them are wonderful, and some of them are really things that there's no way the community or the district could possibly do. But there is that collaboration in that design. And it happens in the financial design and the financial review more so than necessarily all of the instructional kinds of things, although they bleed into each other a great deal. So I would recommend that whatever the business community particularly has been interested in doing, and we have a strategic plan. The board has said there has to be a strategic plan and an associated financial plan with that strategic plan. To Mike's point, we have to figure out how big we're really talking about. What is phase 3? We're in phase 2 of our growth plan. What's phase 3? What new buildings, what old buildings, what things are going to happen that way? And then also what kinds of programs need to be, expanded. The most I've heard about from the business community and I think population, families, so there might be some unity to this, is stuff about career tech, youth employment, building a school system that allows young people to learn to work and to be employed and get internships, get associate degrees, not just a diploma, that kind of some grand vision. And grand visions work in this town. If you go back 20 years, it's the facilities master plan. The grand idea was not just reestablishing our physical plants, but the idea was community learning centers. That grand idea sold. The next grand idea was preschool. That grand idea people bought into. Honestly, we have to come together engagement-wise to figure out what the next grand plan is. But you may not pass a levy, a major levy, or a bond issue, or a permanent improvement, whatever it's going to be, if you don't have a grand vision. And we are very supported as a school district. So I would hope that the finance folks will understand that there's going to be people that are going to be reviewing and participating and collaborating with whatever it is we're going to do. So that's what I would suggest we need to do. And that needs to be happening in the next 6 months. And I honestly, and I've said this before, I don't think anything huge that we're going to do financially is going to really necessarily happen until we are able to burn the mortgage on the facilities master plan in 3031. If you do that, that's message itself, that if in that 20 years or so, you're $1.7 billion, 78% local. But right now, though, we can't wait till 30 because we need operational money now. 31, yeah, and then it always is the delay as well. But I think I'm very worried about 27 and 28 and 29. And we're gonna have to come to grips with it, because if that's where we need to focus right now on even the smaller piece, the strategic plan does give the opportunity to have that collaboration at least start to be built. So what I'm thinking.
That's a really great summary and insights. Thank you. I'm wondering, some of the 20-year, 10-year history look back, if we can point, part of the narrative could be that we could point to the past successes to help us identify the fact that we can be relied on to be successful. And I don't think in this last levy this past November, I don't think we had a really high percentage of support, 72% or something.
Right, yeah, historic.
And but I don't know if we really went to the public with a whole big message about how great, what the impact of preschool has been over the last 10 years. I don't think we did that. I think that might be something worthwhile to do for this future, to say, hey, look, we did this 10 years ago, it was fantastic. We did this 20 years ago, it was fantastic.
Your thought about decades, though, 10 years, 10 years ago, it's preschool is the big idea.
Right,
20 years ago is the facilities master
right. I
plan.
mean, those are historical moments.
30 years ago is the creation of Clark Montessori High School, the first Montessori high school in the country. I mean, so we have this, but these things tend to be generated, and I've always had a conversation with Mr. Lindy when he first joined. I said, I hate to say this, the greatest ideas do not come from the administration, and they do not come from the board. They come from the community. And all of those things are from the community. So and this is an opportune time too, as we get ready for our third century.
Right, I was gonna say the 10-year, and then we got the,
We can have a narrative that would knock the socks off folks. So, but, and at the core is financial piece, for sure, definitely.
thank you, Eve.
Questions? We're gonna be asking about levies soon, go ahead.
No question, just a comment. So I definitely hear the call for a grand idea and a grand vision, and those have been the things that have maybe set the tone in the past. As you're speaking about what the community is looking for, and maybe this is just my subset of community, I do believe that it has to be rooted in what our academic outcomes are reflecting. Because people, as we're talking about needing new money, we have to be able to justify the need for this new money and what our results are that that we've been able to yield to say, this is why this new money is important. So we can have all of these grand things, but what is the impact of those grand things? So I think that needs to be connected to our strategic plan and connecting it to the financial design of what we're doing.
I think that's absolutely correct, and I don't think as an either or. I think it's all wrapped up together. But we also start to lose the sight as to how we're presenting our academic achievements. We do have the #1 high school in the state. We have the #1 middle grades in the state. We have the #1 performing arts school in this state. We were the leader among the 8 urbans regarding early literacy.
Early literacy.
The first time they get tested, we met state standards regarding preparation, regarding college, career, and military. And there's plenty of things too, when we look in terms of the performance index. Cincinnati Public is not, of the 22 districts in Hamilton County, we are not the lowest performing district. We have suburban districts that are lower performing than we are. When you look at the top 10 schools districts in the state of Ohio, all 10 of them are high-income districts. It's Wyoming. I'm sorry, we can't compare to them. Not because we have poverty, but because we have diversity. Diversity is what is the challenge on the state report card. It's not poverty. If you have 16% of your student population that isn't speaking English, if you have 22% of your population with special needs, just from a learning standpoint, okay, you're already starting at a pretty difficult situation. If you're living in a community where there is trauma, you're living in a different situation. And this district has, for years, looked at the children's health, mental and physical. They've looked at whether or not they have food, whether or not we have maintained transportation when everybody else has cut it. We have been focusing on trying to compensate and supplement as best we can those things that our children need. And it's just the needs get so great, but it's at the core is academic achievement. I mean, Columbus, just 2 years ago, started Montessori High School. Cleveland doesn't have one. The only other one that has it, I think, is Dayton, because this is a hot brand in Southwest Ohio. So it's us finding that
Yeah,
that narrative.
absolutely. And I
But
wholeheartedly
at the
agree
heart
with
is
you,
what's happening
kids.
for the kids.
Absolutely. And where it's not just what we, say, it's not just some of the anomalies that we may have in our district. I think it has to be an actualized focus about what we're doing collectively across our district. Yeah.
Exactly,
So,
exactly.
I would agree with the word collectively. I think as we do this strategic plan, I'd love to see our strategic plan have some integration with some of the other resources outside the district. For example, the Recreation Commission, or the city, or Children's Hospital, or
Green Cincinnati.
Green Cincinnati, and the business community in terms
Yes.
of work, not just, we'll focus on workforce development, but maybe they can help us with workforce jobs. So I'm hoping that we can do, the collective is going to be really important, I think. And that could be part of the narrative,
Yes.
that it's not just the schools that are going to make a difference.
And at the heart always of Greater Cincinnati, and this is when we had 100,000 students. I mean, when I went to CPS as a little person, there were like 125,000 children in the district. This is, because you didn't have any of these burbs.
Yeah.
You didn't have 75 coming right to the heart and ruining and killing the West End and all these other neighborhoods that it killed. But the reality is, for us, at the heart has always been the neighborhood school. And, we rededicated ourselves. We've actually diminished, we've reduced the number of magnets and raised the number of neighborhoods back. This is very exciting. Well, I think the quarter thing is crucial. But, Rob?
We have a comment from Dr. Moffat, if you're okay with it.
Oh, good.
The community needs to hear about new initiative programming and not just repeat our historical achievements. CPS needs to pay attention to the varying needs of students, families, and staff.
Boom, boom, all agreed. Reflecting to what you were saying. Absolutely,
Thank you, Dr. K.
Yes, thank you.
absolutely. We're on it. Get fired up in
Now we got
finance.
fired up, yeah.
Go for it.
Okay, I'll try to land the plane, I guess.
right.
The plane is still building.
But this is a great discussion.
It's only started.
Appreciate the historical knowledge, appreciate the ideas. I love this collaboration. Let's talk about budget, I guess. We'll try to land the plane with budget.
Have a good weekend. Yes,
So now we're going from looking way forward to looking a little bit forward, right? So budget updates, if you hit the next slide, Rob. Here's our timeline. I love these little tabs that former Treasurer Wagner
I
created.
like this one.
I'm gonna use these forever. So they're
Absolutely.
getting used forever. Just so we're at, so November, we're still discussing with the unions a salary reopener, so that's still in progress. That's why I haven't taken it off. Initial school staffings were sent to the schools in December, or in January, actually. We changed that so people didn't have to worry about their staffing until they got back from a holiday break, so that was nice. Thank you, CFT, for agreeing to that. Central office budgets have started. I talked about that a little bit briefly. January tax budget, Mr. Ashley knocked that out last on the 12th, so that is good. And so kind of putting a lot of different threads together. This month, we're going to talk about school staffing appeals. So schools have the ability to appeal their staffing if they think that the formula-based, is missing a key piece. So I know those are due today. They'll be reviewed next week. We also started the review of the non-personnel request. That's kind of the big January. February, the big thing is going to be the forecast. That's our next big
And that'll
idea to get some
be here
information.
in February, right?
Yes, we'll start here, and then obviously it has to be approved by the full board as well by the end of February. Yeah, instead of May. It used to be May, which was a lot more. All right. Look like you have a question.
Three things, I think. First, I still am not convinced that we are properly staffing our middle schools. I can't figure out, are we staffing them like they're high schools, or are we staffing them like they're elementary schools? Because I think you know, the high school folks have had a sense of relief from all the pressures that are created, but that's an issue for me about whoever is taking care of the middle school staffing. Another thing is that we are doing the staffing based upon our school year this year. But we're getting ready to have a strategic plan that we want to be transformative enough that next year shouldn't look like this year necessarily. So how do you, what's the space that you give yourself to be able to, and I know it can't be new or in addition to, it can be new, but it can't be in addition to. To what degree is the strategic plan and the budgeting figuring out, well, how can we be transformative instead of just have the first year of the next 4-year plan, it just looked like last year because we didn't use the budget process in anticipation of the strategic plan process. And then the fourth thing is this issue of per student cost and per school budget. We're still doing, and I understand why we do it, we're still doing top-down macro instead of building blocks or whatever. And I think there's too much of a, and I'm confused, not everybody else is, I'm confused still about this per student cost and per school, because we should have been able to reduce overall some aspects by making things more efficient in the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, we transformed a couple of places. I think it was student services is supposed to have changed. I mean, so just be kind of looking at some of that, not just the rudimentary. Those are my 3 big concerns right now.
So we're going to hit a couple of those in some upcoming slides for sure.
Okay.
I think middle schools is definitely a discussion. I mean, I think I would say initially last year we looked at them as more on the elementary school model, and then we've adjusted and we continue to adjust. And I think and it's going to be the same thing for the strategic plan. I think the important thing is, I like how you said we can do new things, not additive things. I think that's probably a pretty accurate description of our financial position. Like we're not, I think the forecast will show that our revenues will be very flat for next year, if not a slight decline. And so, you know, we can do lots of new things, but that means we have to probably stop doing some old things. And that's a normal part, huh? But that is a normal part of what we do here. You know, CPS is making it to its 3rd century because we've been able to do that for 2 centuries. You know,
This is a phrase I've heard the superintendent use, or I think it's the superintendent. We have to live in the future. And to Kareem's point in calling in, we do best, and we're still around because we've been living in the future. And I mean, we have to.
Agree. All right, Rob, if you'll,
go ahead.
sorry.
I had a question as we're talking about, and I think you said you're getting to this about the per pupil cost. Specifically, has there been, have we absolved the Fair School Funding Plan, or has there been a change in the formula? Where are we specifically with that? And what that impact looks like, obviously, around the funds that we do receive from the state?
Soapbox time, yeah. So, yes, Fair School Funding Plan continues to be less and
It's bringing up a lot.
less and less funded, less and less fair. I mean, the formula itself is very solid, I think. I think our last Money Matters with Mike, we did kind of a deep dive with one of the kind of original members of the work group. And I think his feelings, I think I would agree, it is the formula itself is fairly solid. The legislature has chosen to implement it now. So they locked all the cost inputs to a prior year and let all the district wealth inputs update to the most recent, which basically throws the formula out of whack, right? So So the formula looks at how much it should cost to educate a kid, and then looks at how much money the district should provide. So we're using old numbers for how much it should cost to educate, so that gap is growing. But we're gonna use the most recent wealth index, which means, and at the end of the day, districts are gonna get less money. And that's, the Fair School Funding Plan becomes less and less. And there's a great graph, I wish I had it in the slide deck, that shows the drop in state share of funding for public K-12 schools. And we are far worse than when the DeRolf decision came out that said that the school funding was unconstitutional. And the reason it was unconstitutional was because of over-reliance on property taxes. Well, here we are in 2026, and we're even more over-reliant on property taxes. So that the big picture revenue, really, just to sum it up, is state aid continues to slowly decrease. We did do a little better in what are called the categoricals or the restricted aid. We did a little better in that. I think we have a little more, I guess we're a little higher in poverty than.
Is that what,
average.
like the categoricals, is
yes.
that like the disabilities
Yep.
and, okay.
Yeah, we're doing a little better in that. The high picture, we're down. And all the property tax changes have flattened out our property tax future, so that traditionally we would get bumps at reappraisals. We would get a bump being on the 20 mil floor. We would get a bump for inside millage. We're no longer on the 20 mil floor. I mean, I don't want to steal all of Kevin's thunder for next month, but the big picture is like no one is coming to save us. You know, the state's not coming to save us. 20 mil floor is not coming to save us. And that's why when we started this conversation saying we need new operating money, like the unsexy thing is we need new operating money to keep up with the rate of inflation. Now that's a hard sell for any given citizen because they're fighting the same fight, which is why the big idea is so important. Why the looking forward to the future, why the doing new things for a new century is so important. But we cannot ignore the fact that, you know, what we're getting is not keeping up with the rate of inflation.
General Counsel mentioned in some, I think on the podcast back a while, that one of the times that the state people came in to talk to, I think it was when Superintendent Mitchell was here, about the fact that we weren't getting state money, that the state needed to do something about this. All public school was suffering. And they talked about Cincinnati, and he said, well, you can do, it was, I think, I won't say who it was, because I'm not sure, and neither was Dan. But the question was, you can do this, you can do that, there's more money there, and the superintendent and the whole group, and I think Treasurer Wagner, said, we need money for operations, not a new program right now, operation. And Dan said that this state leader said, you will never get more money for operations. There's not going to be any state money, and this is what, 6 years ago? There's not going to be any more money for operations. If you want any new money, you're going to have to do, it's going to be some target, some vision, some governor has decided you're going to do this, or some president's decided you're going to do this. And I can think back with Obama, did exactly, and we got new money that way. Then we got new money with ESSER and all this kind of stuff. But it's never about operations. And that's the rub.
That is the truth. I mean, the state spent a lot of money on science and reading the last 2 years. You know,
Exactly.
The governor had a very specific vision of how that should work, and the state funded that to the point to send thousands upon thousands of teachers through those required trainings and give them stipends. So yeah, if the state has an initiative they fund, and you can tie in with that, you can get money, but the basic operational foundation blocks, salaries, benefits, supplies, facilities, yeah, those things are not going to come.
And to Kendra's point, the fair funding plan, the formula that they actually came up with that was going to help a lot of people, and it represented great concepts and a bipartisan agreement, they just stopped.
And the saddest thing I think about that conversation was how quickly it stopped.
Yeah, instantly.
Not this budget, but the budget, what was it, the last biennial budget had most of the formula pieces in and was overwhelmingly approved. I can't remember the numbers, but it was probably a 90% approval across the aisle. And in one budget cycle, we went from that to what we have today.
Partisan politics.
So still not landing the plane. All right, let's land this plane. All right, so,
We were circling the airport.
yeah. Yeah, no, it's good. All right, next slide. I shared with everyone a timeline of activities. Still working on fleshing this out. You can click on it and get the whole spreadsheet. But we tried to put everything in by category. So we have, revenue budget, school staffing, non-personnel, all those things. Over on the far right are probably the two columns that are most important here, which are board discussion opportunities and board action opportunities. And so I put in the business meetings, retreats, those sort of things that are on the board calendar. I'll move the finance committees from tentative to
Yeah,
regular.
as long as, I think we're okay. I mean,
I think we're good there. We'll figure out the June one.
goes
But-
much longer, we'll have to cater lunch.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so next.
Brunch.
Next slide, Rob, just kind of to remind this committee of some of the things that we've kind of discussed and agreed upon, is that admin recommendations would come to finance committee first, then to the
Yes.
full board. We would love to do some intermediate budget approvals that build to the final budget appropriation. I think everyone's kind of likes that idea. This year, we're building up from 0 to our budget target, and we are going to talk about choices and not cuts. So we again, future, thinking to the future, we're making choices for the future. So, all right. So one of the conversations we've talked about is central office versus school budgets. This was a concern that we talked about. If you hit the next slide, so school budgets, central office budgets are kind of different. School budgets are student based, so we get those enrollment projections. Jeremy Golly's team works on that. And that really builds out your staffing. It builds out your per pupil allocations, all those sort of things. Central office budgets are 0 based, so we're starting at 0. Dan Horn. So we asked people to do budget requests based on kind of 4 categories, and we can bring those up more as we go. But legal compliance. So what is the absolute minimum we have to budget to stay in legal compliance? That is both academic and operational. It's not just you need to have, one principal and one superintendent, and you'd have, one teacher for every X number of kids, but also a district our size has to offer benefits because that's the Affordable Care Act. So district our size has to be able to legally, have different programs, so all those sort of things get in there.
And there has been interest in previous finance committees and administration as well, is in this budget process, and it kind of comes up on the timeline, that somewhere way earlier than June, matter of fact, well, maybe it's almost still cold in Cincinnati, that we recommend that these things, or this amount of money, is going to be spent on this amount of things, and that we know we have to spend, that we're not going to have a grand board debate or whatever. And it's the fixed costs, the obligated costs, the things that are state minimums. And to try to see that so that people feel an understanding of the budget in those pieces.
Yes.
And maybe you can explain that a little bit better.
No, it's exactly what we talked about, kind of the blocks and building up from the blocks. So there's a amount of spend that it's almost like we have to do. Like I use, debt payments, utilities to some example. Like I can't imagine a scenario where the board is going to say we shouldn't pay our debts. We're not going to fall under debt payments. So there's no reason to spend any more than 2 minutes on those sort of things, debt payments, utilities, some of the state required things that we have to have. Like So get those out of the way, we build those into the budget, that's kind of off, that building block is put into place. You know, as we're building up to our target, that block is done, it's there. And we spend all of our time, admin and board time, on kind of the next round, you know, because there will be difficult choices to be made. But there's no reason to talk about things that we have to do. You know, there's really very little choice in those items.
Can that be in both the aggregate and in the small as well? Or is that only the aggregate across the board?
And I think
How does that work if we?
It has to, you gotta build it up in the detail, so.
I think I both. I assume if I came to you and said, Superintendent, I came to you and said, we want you to approve, say, $200 million of fixed and obligated spending. I'm just using a round number. You know, first question would be, what exactly do we get for that?
Okay.
And that's where the aggregate comes in. We would say, for that amount of money, here are all of the things that the district gets, and maybe here's why we don't feel there's a choice for them. You know, I could say the debt payments. We're going to pay, $14 million here. There's $3.5 million transfer as part of the FMP that we have to do. And we can line those things out, and you can look through them and say, yes, we agree. These things are things there's no choice from. And so the idea would, and again, the level of detail, we can talk about, but we can make it very detailed.
You did have that one chart that last year that was helpful to me particularly, which it had school by school. And it showed the school budget, but it also showed the actual dollars that you said were coming from to that school or is to help that school or part of that school that was actually part of the central budget. And then it showed total.
Oh, you're going to love the next slide. This is
She is
is
the
the-
Ed Sullivan
she is
approach.
she is literally the queen of segues.
I can do the
Yes,
segue.
if you would like to look at the next slide.
Oh, wow,
Ms.
look,
Bolton.
what a surprise.
Mike,
So-
real quick, I
so-
do want to make a note here.
Sorry, Cody with a K. I was going to say Cody with a K did
That's
quite a
right.
bit of work on this for us.
A quick note I want to make here. So I struggle with colors. So when I was labeling the central office and the school, those percentages need to be switched. So what this graph represents is central office is going to be that light blue at the bottom. Those should be the percentages that are in the blue, the top blue, because the central office dollars are actually going down over time. Whereas the school support, what we're giving to the schools, what schools are receiving, that is going up. So the
Oh, yeah,
gray
your
is
labels
schools.
are backwards.
Yeah, my labels are backwards. I just saw it.
Now that, because, the 31% little slide is much, I
If you
that.
see the pie difference, 14 is much bigger than 31. So when I was
Oh,
doing
yeah.
that, I mixed up the colors. and that
Oh,
was
you
my
mixed
fault.
your, are you colorblind as well?
I am actually.
Okay, well, that's two of us. apparently.
So
DEI, we have a
I
colorblind
I
person.
don't do well
here.
with blue.
We have a whole colorblind financial staff. Yeah.
FY '26, the 14% is central office.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
That is correct. And the 31% would be the school support. So that would be the amount that central office is allocating out to the schools.
All right, so we'll fix this and
Yes, sir.
send it back out to you.
My
So
deepest apologies.
Another name for school support is central office allocation. That'd be another description.
Yeah, that's
I don't know that we use that phrase a lot, but that is
Portion?
the idea. It's
Yes.
the central office allocation to the schools. Yes.
So another way to say this, 55% is direct school
Correct.
and 31% is indirect. Is
Yes.
that another way?
Yes,
that's a
that'd be a
good
good way to say it.
Yes,
Direct
sir.
and indirect. To use some CFO terms.
Yes.
So a lot of examples of that are like some of the DSS folks, related service providers, those sort of folks are budgeted centrally, but they're allocated at the schools.
Those student facing.
Student facing, yes.
I do recall when Kareem was on finance, this is 3 years ago now, and emphasized preschool, per student, per school, that we do budget macro. And I know we've worked a little bit better at getting less macro and more per this and, the items or cost centers. if, the more we can do that and not have macro, you're gonna have a board that better understands, and you're gonna have a community that's gonna be able to see dollars or not see dollars, which is as important as seeing dollars. And I mean, again, we've hopefully have eliminated some of the school centers that were too costly to tolerate.
Yes, we're gonna go there too.
Okay, good.
So yeah, we'll fix the slide, get it back out to you. The next slide, I think this one's interesting as well. This is definitely that conversation about, when people say, cost of teachers is a runaway cost, and this is your instructional spend by category, and what it's showing you is, the blue at the bottom is your general ed and spend, and you can see it hovers around 65%. The growth has been in students with disability spending. You can see it grows, as well as the ESL spending. And so I think this is one of those conversations that's important as we talk about where the money goes. Is that those population spendings increase, in order to meet the needs of our students, but it's not that we're just, having runaway expenses. The expenses are targeted, they're to meet needs, or to meet IEPs, they're to provide students really a chance at having an adequate education. So I think that's an interesting point of this graph, is you can see the change in percentage.
So another word for regular is gen ed.
Yes, general education. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, these were based on USAS descriptions, so.
And if you go to the next slide, we cleaned it up a little bit. So I like that one a little. We took a couple of the smaller buckets off, just so you'd only have. You can also see career tech in there. So these are using kind of the state categories. So again, you can see where the increases really hit the dollar. And then the final one, Cody, is another interesting conversation. I think this is support services. And so there's a lot of buckets in there, but you can also see, what would you say about the growth here?
I think the growth really points to pupil support, and really how the impact of that is going to be going forward. A lot of things stay quite the same, with fiscal support staying the same. Administrative support kind of stays relatively similar, but a lot of your big growth you'll see, or decline as well. You can see pupil transportation looked like it declined from 23 to 24, starts to grow back up. But what we want to look at here is these overarching, based on state codes and how we code things, the pupil support. That was the biggest focus for me. And the overarching, what supports we offer to directly to the pupils, and then indirectly. There's not a lot of support that goes to central office or administrative, the administrative can be kind of a toss-up. I'm speaking in circles here, but administrative includes, my apologies, the principals and assistant principals. So you'll see that is a bigger chunk as well. But that should be pointed out that is principals and assistant principals, as that's how they are coded. So,
and it's been fairly consistent over time as a percentage of their overall budget. So I mean, just kind of where the money. It's interesting to see where the money goes at that macro level.
In the old days, when we would see like the school budget sheet, and usually we'd probably get it from CFT rather than the Treasurer Wagner, until we made her do it. But the alarming thing to me, and I shouldn't say, it's an alarming thing to me, but this is just my mindset, is on school budgets, which you're talking about here, is the small part that the actual, I don't know the right term, classroom teacher, and the number of actual classroom teachers have in a school budget. It's that if you look at, and part of it is our kids need so much more support, But if you look at suburban budgets, the vast majority of the whole school budget is standalone, stand-up, frontal teachers. And it is a small part, it's a very small part proportionately, at least it used to be, when we would look at those sheets, when you looked at how all the people that were employed in that school and where the dollars were, it was stunning to see how few teachers there really were. And I don't know, I still have the belief that if you have more teachers, you might not need some of the other stuff you have. I don't know, but nobody wants to cut anything that we have because we know the children need so much. But the school budget is in an urban setting is very unusual to me.
Yeah.
If you go back to that first chart where you were colorblind, that would be, in the school support, would that call the indirect category?
Yep.
Does that include the principals and the assistant principals?
I would have to look.
No,
No, probably not, right?
they're all in what school, they're all in the direct
Yeah.
school budget.
I
Yeah,
think
this
to-
is,
To Eve's point, it might be interesting to carve out in that direct category.
it's an interesting graph, I think, to look at school budgets by position. I think what Ms. Bolton said is right. We have a lot of positions you don't see in suburban schools. You know, our number of security, our number of paraprofessionals, those are two, you know, our number of counselors, related service providers. It is so much higher. Social workers, yeah, all those sort of things.
And all of which are critically important.
Yeah, and it's like,
I'm not saying, but also, you talk about academic achievement. I mean, servicing the kids, that instruction piece has to have more primacy, I think, in our thinking. I think the board, I think Mr. Lindy and everybody's been very good about saying stuff about academic achievement and academic results, but let's see where we're investing the academic results dollars.
I think to that point, if I could speak, so.
Yeah.
Obviously, I do think it would be great to see, right, have this kind of an audit of this information. I do think these additional supports are significantly important as we talk about counselors, as we talk about social workers, and what have you. But I also think that what is most important is how, as I go back to this point, are we ensuring that we're doing the work systemically? Because we can have different positions and we have duplicity in roles, right? We may not be utilizing our resources as efficiently as we possibly need to. So I think that's where we should make sure that we are leaning into to see how it can better create this comprehensive approach to yield those results. Because I think too, if we look at it, we're talking about the teachers. I think when we get our treasurer's report quite frequently, we have a number of like substitute teachers, right? So I think we need to make sure that we're being intentional about how we are effectively resourcing these roles and providing that allocation for support.
Cool, this is getting exciting.
okay, well, let's finish on the last. exciting
Land that
thing.
plane.
All right, per school, per pupil budgets. So this is a great conversation. Thank you, Mr. Crossett, for changing the way we think. He did some simple math, and we were like, oh, okay. So starting out here, I think per pupil budgets and state report card. So the state looks at operating spending per pupil. I think that's a good way to look at it. It takes out some of the non-operational costs, which vary greatly across districts. You know, if you have debt payments, if you have those sort of things, and you can see here, you know, we spend more than the state average, both in operating spending and classroom instruction. You can see, obviously our federal funds are more than average, our state and local funds are also more than average. So that's one number we can look at. When people say, how much do we spend per pupil? 14,000 is a pretty representative number statewide, nationwide, honestly. If you ask a nationwide expert how much school districts spend per pupil, it's about 14,000. You'll hear that from people like Marguerite Rosa and those sort of groups.
But in 25, February 25, I think it is, by our own numbers, it was $11,899
Yep.
per student. And so we're saying that 26, it went to what?
So that's where, and that's the part of this conversation is.
Yes, because we have parts of, some of our schools. Well, I don't know, but that's the aggregate, though. The aggregate makes it be an average of across the board, but you've got obviously some schools that, it's 9,000 or whatever, and you've got some that are 16,000, which was part of what we looked at with ad hoc.
Yep.
So again, per school, per
Sure.
student.
So this is where
Help me out.
this is where things get really interesting. So I use the state number as a starting point, right?
Right.
I'm not going to use Mr. Cross's number of dividing our total budget by our total number of kids.
And I
'cause
appreciated that's in the start.
But that's another good number to have a conversation about because someone else will do that math. So the document you're referring to, Ms. Bolton, is what we publish as part of the budget development. It is looking very specifically at the school budget. So those are the school budgets
Exactly.
in the schools. So that is money that's directly allocated to the schools. I think what Mr. Cody Fakay has been working on here is doing a deeper dive of that. So he has a spreadsheet here. You can see, if you open the spreadsheet, Rob, hopefully this clears up a lot of questions. What he's been working on for most of the year now, I guess, is adding context into that school budget. So you can see, thank you, Rob. So you can see the first kind of light blue column there, and I think this will match fairly close to what we had in February, is a per pupil budget, school budgets only. So that is looking at what money is directly allocated to the schools to spend per student. You can see the range there. I don't know if there's nothing shocking there between, there's a lot in the $10,000 to $11,000 range.
Yeah, if you scroll to the bottom of that column, Rob, there's actually an average, and
And
I
our
think that's
average
about right close to what Ms. Bolton just stated. 11,000.
Your average is 11,463, which is fairly close, I think, to the February number. Then from there, what Cody's been doing the last couple of months is going out and taking those kind of, so the next column, I guess, is central office budgets in schools. So the next column is what we talked about. This is what we talked about, the school allocated budget. So this is central office money that we're putting on schools. So really, these are extra resources the schools have. They just don't really have control of them. They're assigned by caseload. They're assigned by multiple factors. Indirects. These are indirect supports. And so there's a number there that adds to. And then the next three columns, facilities, transportation, ITM, we went a step further and said these things show up in the budget as a central budget that's budgeted to all the schools as an allocation. So the quick way to do it is we say, okay, there's 30-some thousand students, transportation budget's $48 million, divide that number and then give it back to the schools, on allocation. But that's not really a true cost, right?
Right.
We know some schools, a district-wide magnet school is going to have higher transportation costs than a neighborhood school.
Which is one of the reasons we got rid of some of them.
Right, exactly. So Cody went and worked with the people in those areas to get it real cost for these things. Whether it's facilities, he went and worked with facilities to get the actual utility cost. Some schools are more efficient for utilities, some schools aren't. And so that's what those columns are, columns G through H.
Jim?
Is the collection of that data repeatable now?
We're getting closer.
Great.
Yes, as I'm working with some of these, like transportation, for example.
Okay.
Oh, good. Okay, sir.
Yes. And
That's the Rosetta Stone, was the transportation cost per student per school.
And so when you get to column J out there, which is school budget plus direct district support, that gives you gives you probably a closer all-in number for schools. I think this is really useful for planning. You know, as we talk about, you know, like things like, you know, ad hoc went through and one of the things was reduce the number of magnets because, you know, and strengthen the neighborhood
afford 'em.
schools. You know, this number gives you a kind of all-in for planning, which I think is important. Some of it is just a kind of a function of how many students with disabilities are in any given school. But that's a conversation. Some of them are functions of school program type. I mean, generally, you're going to see your Montessori schools are a little more expensive because the Montessori model has an extra adult in the Montessori classrooms. That is a key part of how Montessori works. And so you couldn't take that away without, you know, taking away the entire Montessori model. So I think like the next couple of graphs you can see are interesting in that you have two lines in here, and this one's a little hard. It's a little hard to read, but these are all the elementary and pre-K schools, and this is the blue line. This is why colorblind people, we use two colors, right? The blue line is the school budget itself, and then the red line is the school budget plus the district provided support. And you can see where everyone kind of falls on that continuum. And then you took it and you made it per school, is that right? Per pupil? Yeah, so you divide it per pupil, so.
Yeah, these are just a graph of those two light blue columns that we just discussed, comparing the two.
And then he has another slide that is for high schools that does the same thing. High school and middle school, I guess, together. Virtually, it's hard to get all of CPS schools on one graph. We're
No, and I
at
think it's
that level of size where it's hard to put everything on one graph. but-
Right, and I think it's very important to separate the high schools from the rest of the schools. I even think it's important to separate PK8s as a particular cohort, very frankly, to really see what structure works best for achieving academic results, and what costs or what systems are most cost efficient. I do always like to point out that of the many high schools we have, one of the least funded is Aiken. And has been for at least 8 years that I've watched it. And I'm not sure why or how that is the case, considering the population and whatever, but it's fascinating too, and you can see why indeed you have to deal with, in ad hoc, why you had to deal with the issue of Riverview. You know, it's just,
There's almost no student population there.
Yes,
why?
yes, I
Well,
mean,
there's been schools that have been eliminated, and part of it from ad hoc, part of it financial, because if it's too small, you can't staff it. You can't have a full program. But I mean, it's this per thing is really where it's at.
yeah, I think a lot of, obviously, the more full a school is, the more kind of efficient it is in a way.
There has to
like-
be a
like
certain
the-
number, I forget what the
Yes.
word is, that you need a certain synergy or a certain amount in order to be able to staff things.
There is a tipping. I remember when we first spun up Spencer. Spencer
Yes.
was the first situation of this where we really worked with them as we built that, because for a high school you have to have, there's a tipping point. I don't know what you call it, synergy, a tipping point, a minimum that isn't as much student based as it is as much credit based.
That's right.
In order for all of your kids to get the credits they need, it requires a certain number of teachers. That is not what you would do if you just did it based on students or based on ratios.
I've got 10 more minutes. I gotta go.
We're way over. Yeah,
I
keep
think
going.
that is kind of where I think the end of the per pupil things, I think.
Yeah, this is this is a breakthrough. I think this is great. I think this is several years in the making to focus on the per, so to speak. I think it's good, and I'd like more of this that is shared, the more the board understands what we're talking about. The aggregate, so hard for us to see something in the aggregate, and then somebody writes a letter. I mean, we have to have some level of detail to fully understand what's going on.
I would like to make the general comment, though,
Yeah.
that for the strategic plan, for the budget, the key to this is going to be how well can we forecast? And I think Kevin, is the forecast revenue genius. But I think a bigger issue that's going to be really important is doing a really good job of forecasting enrollment by school or by neighborhood to determine where schools should be. That is going to be a big key. The better we can do that, the better we can be successful.
Absolutely.
So for what it's worth. So I know Jeremy's not in the room, but
Oh, he's a key player.
yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna land this plane. Are we ready
Do
to land
it.
this plane? Okay.
I need that tax levy stuff.
Okay, so these are informational, but this is a reminder if you go to the next slide.
Three-letter word.
This is a reminder of where our current levies are.
Lord.
Big ones are the bond levy, as we talked about, ends in calendar year 2031. And we have a huge opportunity there because when the bond is paid off, that levy goes off the books. That is 3.3 mils right now of taxes that will be expiring.
And as you're landing the plane, I'm going to tell you that 3031 piece, when we are going to ask for whatever we're going to ask beforehand, we're going to have to ask the people and look into the future and actually not just make a request or a commitment about what's the first thing we're going to ask for. We need to be able to tell them, and this is also what we're going to be asking for at this time. They're going to have to see what this is, and that's part of that strategic plan, financial design. And that's going to have to be part of the narrative and the messaging.
Yeah.
They need to anticipate it. We can't have, out of nowhere, the city says they're going to do an income tax in November, which I don't think they'll be allowed to do, but I don't think the powers that be will allow them to do it. But you're going to have to ask for multiple things for people to be able to see into the future.
Yes, there are three. So there's whatever the new thing is. There's the opportunity at the end of the bond levy, which is both a celebration and opportunity. And we have two emergency levies that are also going to expire in that rough same time period, in 2029 and 2032. The board will have to make a decision what to do with those. There is the ability to convert them to fixed sum levies and keep the same fixed amount. That might not be the best thing to do at those times. I mean, we have time to talk about it, but given the changes in all the property tax legislation, now that fixed sum levies are part of the 20 mil floor, they are not nearly as appealing to us as they once were. And so those are things we need to talk about. I put it out there. We'll keep reminding folks of these topics as we go. It's also in a nice little timeline, Rob, if you go to the next slide. So you can see it on a timeline where these things kind of stop and go. And then I did end with the final slide that is kind of what are the options available to the board.
Excellent.
So that as we come up to what do we do, here's what we have. this list may change before we get to 2029. It may change before we get to 2031. This will be updated every time.
Yeah,
we
you
have-
can, that thing should like be flashing or something,
Just
you
say,
know?
it's like an etch-a-sketch.
It's
You're like,
an Etch-a-Sketch, it
Yeah,
really is.
we may have to shake it every year, but I want to put all that out there for the committee, so we all are looking at the same kind of set of data.
Thank you. I think the idea that you're looking forward and helping us look forward so clearly is a huge benefit. So thank you very much for your perspective.
Do members have particular things that they want to request to see or think about for the next meeting or before the next meeting? Shall we, if you know that,
We gotta do the work plan by
we got, that's 2 weeks. That's 2 weeks, you gotta submit that, but I'm saying topics for next month. If you have some that you know now, or you're gonna come up with them later, to send them to Mike, would be great. Because he and I meet on the agenda.
Yeah, sure.
Whatever, and it can be as specific as you want it to be, or
So
big.
I don't have anything at the moment that's top of mind. So I will try to make sure I get that, if something does come up, get that to you both. And then also, I know we're looking to approve the work plan, but I'm curious to know if there are any topics of discussion that comes up throughout the year. Do we have a flexible agenda?
Yes.
Or we're able to add?
Excellent question,
Okay.
oh, yeah. And that's true for any member that wants to add something or just get to us early. We try, what is it usually, how many days before do we try to meet?
At least like the week before, you know, because it takes our staff a little bit of time to prepare, but we try to meet, you know, we try to move it around so we're not around cows or whenever we're already kind of together, but
Anytime.
yeah, I would say about half of the agenda in general is kind of pre-scheduled stuff.
Yes.
And the other
something we have
half,
to do.
we kind of adapt to whatever is going on out there.
And again, the more we can do the bookends for these discussions, because it's crucial to have finance people go into the big board meeting and have some confidence, you know, and be able to say something or not say something, or have some, this is big stuff. This is great. Any words of wisdom? Sir?
One more comment from Dr. Moffett.
Absolutely.
On the pupil, per cost pupil, can we separate the report by the elementary report by neighborhood and magnet schools? What's her
Yeah,
request?
absolutely.
You got that,
I
Connie?
like that idea of categorizing the cohorts, the different types of schools. Just for example, PK 6, we found that student-based budgeting worked when they worked on it last year at some length. It worked to do student-based budgeting, or at least it seemed reasonable, not outrageous, PK to 6, the neighborhood schools, but it didn't work when you tried to do student-based budgeting for Montessori or any specialized program. So I think it's good to think of these schools in different
Yeah,
categories.
I don't know if it's possible to do it, but like with Sailor Park and Euler, aren't they K-12? And Spencer's like 3-12. I don't know if you could separate their high school component very easily, but I mean, I don't know if that's, just,
I mean, there's functions, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, just a
Some
thought.
of the administrative costs are a little tough, but definitely the instructional costs are easy to separate.
Cool. That's it. If they want to, they.
Public, do you have anything you want to say?
Anybody else? You sure?
I mean, the only thing I would say is that election in 26 at the state level is going to determine the future of public education.
Absolutely.
You gotta turn your mic on,
I'm
sir, come on,
Say that again, you're true.
say that again.
Just going to say that the 2026 election in Ohio is going to determine the future of public education in Ohio.
That is so true. And at least from a public school standpoint, public education standpoint, the arrival of David Pepper on the state ticket is crucial. Regardless of Democrat, Republican, or whatever, he is an absolute firebrand about public education. And we probably need that right now to compensate for the legislative leadership that we have. You're right. Anything else for the good of the order? For the good of the weekend? I want you all to know that Reds Fest is happening tonight and tomorrow. And so my life begins. I'll take it. Good job, everybody, and welcome. We hope that you'll come back.
Absolutely. I'll be here.
This is where it's happening.
I see.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
This is exciting shit.
Hey, welcome to the committee.
Oh,
You're
thanks.
gonna be a nice,
We have to,
nice member of this committee, I appreciate it. And you're like me.
now